Good morning, good morning, good morning. It is currently 11:09 and today's date is the 4th of November 2024. It is your boy Genesis. How are you doing? What a wonderful day. It is Monday. It is the start of a new week and of course, we know what happens on Monday. Everybody wakes up in the morning and we get right straight to work because we want to make sure the week is a productive one. Okay. Yes, yes, y'all. We are back. I told you we're gonna get back here in the morning because the legendary 45th, who most people say will be the 47th, that is also my opinion. And he is gonna be in North Carolina this morning, actually in Raleigh, North Carolina. We're gonna check that out. And before we do check that out, I just want to say thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you so much for double tapping the screen. Thank you so much for subscribing. Thank you for being a part of the channel. Okay. God bless you. God bless you. God bless you. All right. All right. All right. You know what time it is. Yes. The title of today's stream, well, this morning's stream, hopefully I have more than one stream today. I don't know, maybe. But the title of this morning's stream is hard work and dedication. Hard work and dedication. It's the start of a new week. You're going to have to start this week with hard work and dedication. It is just what it is. You're going to have to dedicate yourself to your goals, dedicate yourself to your dreams, dedicate yourself to your aspirations. And you're going to have to do what you have to do to be a better person for yourself, for your family, for, your friends, your relations and everybody. And it is just a beautiful feeling to know that you actually dedicated your time. You put some hard work into becoming something more, something better, something, much more than you ever thought you would be or than they said you were gonna be, you know. Yeah, it is just a beautiful feeling. So, dedication and hard work. And talking about dedication and hard work, the 45th has been putting in so much hard work. He has dedicated himself to working so hard to becoming the 47th because after the election day, there's no working hard or dedicating your time to becoming the 47 because if you don't put in the work now, you're not going to get the results. So I guess has been making sure there are no stones unturned. All right, let's put the polls up right now. All right, the polls are coming up right now. Yes, yes, y'all. Good morning, good morning. Thank you for tuning into the live stream. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. It is your boy Genesis. Yes, we are back. Okay. So, first things first, before we go see the rally in Raleigh, North Carolina, we are going to see some polls update. And this is coming from the Iowa poll reveals. And yes, this is on Fox right now. Let's go check it out.
The dueling approval ratings. This is sort of an albatross for Harris here. Her administration that she's a part of, Joe Biden's approval rating sits at just 41%. And then there's this twist. Donald Trump, retrospectively, do you now approve of how he did as president? In our poll, 48%, almost half, give him that approval rating.
That, of course, MSNBC's election guru thinks that the approval rating could be the biggest factor in the race. Let's bring in our own elections expert, pollster and political analyst Frank Luntz. Frank, great to have you on the show. A couple of days. We are down to the wire. The Des Moines Register has Harris up by +3. It shook the world today. Frank, I mean, this poll, 47-44, this one was like, what? I mean, this nobody even talked about Iowa for months, and now all of a sudden it's the big headline. What do you think of that poll?
Well, let me remind viewers that back in 2020, with 7 or 8 days to go, there were a whole series of surveys, state surveys that were done, and some of them were done by reputable pollsters, which this Iowa poll was done, that had Joe Biden with a 12 or 15. One of them even had him with an 18-point lead in states that Biden barely won. So and I hope that everyone is a little calm. I know it's hard to be that calm right before the election, an election that really matters. But I think there's way too much focus on the surveys. I don't believe the Iowa results. I will be shocked. If it is true, it means that every other survey is wrong across the country. It's an outlier, and we should be focused on what's happening overall across each of these states. And it really is a dead heat. I'm prepared to say that Trump does win Georgia. I'm prepared to give Wisconsin to Harris. These other states are just simply too close to call. And in the end, it is about turnout. It's about whether younger women vote, and they haven't in the past, whether union members and Latinos participate on the Republican side. I'm watching these very specific voter groups because they will make the decision. And right
Yeah.
now, it really is a 50-50 race.
It's interesting to me, Frank, because I look at Nevada and it's kind of fascinating because the early vote has done extraordinarily well. You look at Nevada, you look at Georgia, you look at some of these other states, and the early vote has done really, really well for Republicans. Do you see that as a trend, or what do you make of that?
It's a good point. I see it as a data point. And in the end, I'm watching these rallies to see, frankly, how many people show up, what the message is, whether they're communicating it. And both candidates seem to be hitting on all cylinders over the last 48 hours. For Donald Trump, if he wins in either Pennsylvania or Michigan, I don't see how he loses the election. But he's got to win one of those two states. For Harris, if she takes Georgia, which will be decided early in the evening, North Carolina early in the evening, those two states are two incredibly powerful bellwethers that we should know by 10 or 10:30, maybe 11
Yeah.
o'clock. So we won't know the winner until Wednesday or Thursday, but we will have a bellwether by late Wednesday evening. And I understand you're doing your show
Yeah.
uh, uh, late election night. Your show may be more instrumental in telling us what happens and who's the winner of any show.
That's a good plug, Frank Luntz. Watch Fox News at night. We're going to be on until the wee hours of the morning, and it might be decided there. Frank Luntz predicts that post-election accusations, I'm going to put these up on the screen, Frank, misinformation, undercounting, and corruption. I've got about 45 seconds left for you. What do you mean?
I don't accept it, is actually what I mean. I think we need to give people the right to count these ballots, that every legal voter has the right to vote, that every vote should be counted and every count should be verified. It really is that simple. And I'm afraid that there'll be too much of this election rigging talk without giving the states the chance to vote. It is not helpful to undermine the security of the election. It is not helpful to create and sow doubts in people's minds that something is unfair. I trust
Yeah.
these states, and many of them have Republican secretaries of state and Republican
Yep.
governors. I think we need to give the votes the chance to be counted, and don't believe
Yep.
what you read on the web because a lot of it, frankly, is wrong.
It's a good point. Frank Luntz, great to have you on the show as always, sir. Thank you.
Hey, Sean Hannity here. Hey, click here to subscribe.
Well, earlier we showed you that surprising new poll out of Iowa. It shows Vice President Harris up 3 points over the former president, 47% to 44%, which is a big turnaround from the same poll in September. Now, that number is still within the margin of error, so there's no clear leader. But a swing like this, and from such a well-respected pollster with a long track record in Iowa, has some wondering if this could be an indication that Harris may overperform in the Midwest Tuesday night, including even in battlegrounds like Wisconsin. Today, while speaking in Pennsylvania, the former president attacked the pollster and said the poll was intentionally skewed to favor Harris.
I got a poll. I'm 10 points up in Iowa. One of my enemies just puts out a poll. I'm 3 down. Why do they announce a poll that's highly skewed toward Democrats and liberals? Why do they do that? When you read it, they interviewed far more Democrats than they did Republicans. Why do they do that? Why do they do that? And I guess there's a law that they have to say that because they would have preferred not having to say that.
Well, I'm joined now by J.Ann Selzer, whose firm, Selzer and Company, conducted the poll. And back with us is David Axelrod and John King. And first of all, how surprised were you at these numbers? What do you make of them? And also, obviously, feel free to respond to what the former president said.
Oh, thank you. Thank you for having me. We first saw the numbers on Tuesday morning. Monday night was the first night in the field. And I walked into the office and I'd seen overnight, I'd seen the unweighted data and it had Harris leading. And my assistant said, "Did you see the data?" And I said, "I'd like to see weighted data." So the weighting is how we take care of things that would make our poll unrepresentative. We align things with a known population and we extract from a larger group the people who meet our definition of likely voters, and that is people who've already voted and people who say they will definitely vote. So when former President Trump says we interviewed more Democrats, well, that's what came out of our data. We did nothing to make that happen. I'm a big believer of keeping my dirty fingers off the data. So we did it the way we did it when he won in our final poll twice in 2 election cycles. Very same method.
He said you're an enemy of his. Clearly that's not the case. You have had polls in the past which have shown, that Hillary Clinton wasn't going to do as well in Iowa as a lot of people thought. So you have been, delivered news which has upset Democrats and upset Republicans and people all over the map in the past.
Right, without favor toward one side or the other. I think that the best news I can deliver, and this is true of my non-election related clients, the best news I can deliver is my best shot at what's true. Because then you know what you're working with and you can make adjustments as you need to. But I can't see that there's any advantage to me or my career in messing with the numbers to make it look a particular way. There's no upsides.
Yeah. I want to bring in John and David Axelrod because
Here's what I want to pop up for Ann. And as I do it, as I bring it up right now, I just want to say, despite what the former president just said, I've known Ann for a long time and I've known her work for a long time. She's one of the best in the business, Anderson, and she's absolutely right. The data is what the data is, and you report the data, and then you talk about it. So here's interesting, Ann, in your poll among female voters in Iowa, overall a 20-point gap, 56 to 36%, number one. And now I want to bring up, independents. You're always looking late in a campaign. Where are the independents going, right? If the Democrats are loyal to their candidate, the Republicans are loyal to theirs, where are the independents going? These are independent female voters in Iowa. Look at that. Wow. 57 to 29. My question for you, Ann, would be why? The 6-week abortion ban in Iowa took place a couple months ago. Trump has been pretty dark in his rhetoric in recent days, insulting the vice president quite a bit. Is it something she's saying, something he's saying, something within Iowa that's changing the climate, all of the above?
I'm going to go with all of the above because I can't single one thing out. I will note that our previous polls this year, in February and in June, Trump led with independents.
Right.
So what happened between June and September? Biden left the ticket. Kamala Harris joined it. There was a surge of enthusiasm. We saw it. There was a surge in the proportion of people we talked to who said they would definitely vote. That was our criterion in June. And now we have an additional criterion if you've already voted. And especially among older people, it's over 90% incidence of people that we talk to in that age group who say they're going to vote. And they tend to vote for Kamala Harris and women in that age group specifically and strikingly.
And let me ask you something, and I don't want to geek out here because you sort of touched on it, but we hear a lot of pollsters, and Nate Cohn wrote about this in the New York Times this morning, talking about non-response bias, that to try and explain why polls have been so off in the past few cycles in capturing some of this infusion of Trump voter that they hadn't spoken with and hadn't been included in their sample. And so they've tried to find ways to weight their polls to account for that and cut that number down. You don't believe that is that's the way to go. Explain it.
Well, I can control what I can control. I can weight to known population parameters.
By the way, when you say
So
weight,
we talk.
I think a lot of people don't know what that means. What does that mean?
It will sound very anti-democratic. It's some people get a little bit more than one vote, and some people get a little bit less than one vote. So if we end up in our sample, and we take a sample of all adults in the state of Iowa, and if we've got too many who are older or too many that are women, we adjust it to look like the census. So we're weighting within congressional districts because they're not all aged appropriately. Some of them have state universities and so on. But we want to adjust our data so it looks like a cross-section of the state of Iowa when it comes to age, sex, geography in particular, race, sometimes education, not so much anymore. And then from that bigger pool, over 1,000 people, we pull out the 808 who met one of our criteria to be a likely voter. They've already voted, or they say that they will definitely vote. And so from that, proper cross-section of the state, if older people are more likely to say they're going to vote, they show up in more plentiful numbers in our likely voter sample.
I see.
It's just that easy. So what I say is I'm allowing my data to reveal to me this future electorate. And the people who are using the exit polls or the recalled vote, which I don't think of as very reliable at all, I call that polling backward. So they're adjusting their data to fix the last mistake. I've always allowed my
How is that
data
even
to show me,
something?
without fear or favor, my best shot at what this future electorate is going to look like.
Can I just second John's point? Which is, I've worked with you, Ann, over the years. You've polled races I was involved in, and you are a person of great integrity and skill. So when you say something, people listen.
All right. And
Man, double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel, man. I don't really buy her own poll, but it is what it is. She's done her job, and I guess the American people are gonna do their job today, tomorrow, and then we're gonna see. According to the video we saw before this one, they're saying that by Wednesday or Thursday, actually by Tuesday night, Georgia should be sort of kind of like um not properly called, but you can tell in the direction or whose direction is going towards. So Wednesday, we should be looking to know who Georgia is. Okay, let's see what Fox is saying about the donor and Trump. They say the donors are praising Trump, and this is the greatest American comeback story for Trump. Let's go listen.
Welcome back. Former President Trump and Vice President Harris are making their final pitches to voters today with just one day until Election Day. Trump is holding campaign rallies in North Carolina, in Pennsylvania, and Michigan, while Harris is focusing on Pennsylvania on her last day on the campaign trail. Both candidates campaigning in key battleground states over the weekend. In North Carolina, Trump warned about the economy under a potential Harris presidency. Watch this.
If Kamala wins, you are 3 days away from the start of a 1929-style economic depression. I believe that. You know, we have a lot of great analysts. Scott Bessent is one. He's one of the smartest guys on Wall Street. If I win, you are 3 days away from the best jobs, the biggest paychecks, the brightest economic future that the world has ever seen.
And joining me right now is the man himself who Trump just mentioned, former Soros Fund Management Chief Investment Officer. He is Key Square Capital Management CEO and founder, and Trump donor and advisor, Scott Bessent. Scott, good to see you. Thank you so much for being here.
Good morning, Maria.
Were you watching when Trump mentioned your name there?
I saw the replay, and
Okay.
I'm always honored when I get the shout out from the president.
Yeah, exactly. Nice shout out. Okay, so he said that you're going to see a real depression if Kamala Harris gets in. Do you agree with that? And if so, why specifically?
Maria, I think a couple of things. I understand exactly what the president's saying here. You and I can remember in 1992, it was famously, it's the economy's stupid. And, it was recession, recession, recession when George H.W. Bush was running. And then Bill Clinton won, and miraculously, the recession ended. The New York Times declared the recession ended 2 weeks later. I think that we are in the inverse of that the economy is really in a precarious position here. We saw this with this terrible jobs number. And, forget the devastation from the hurricane and the turmoil that's caused. The revisions, there are 81,000 jobs revised downward in August. We saw further revisions in September. So we saw almost 100,000 jobs revisions. And I think probably the media has been covering up a bit here, and we will immediately go into the economy is bad. The Fed needs to cut. We need more big government spending from the potential Harris administration.
Well, that's what I want to get to, specifics on why Kamala Harris is on the wrong track when it comes to economic growth. I mean, one issue we talk about all the time is regulation. And I know that President Trump has said many times that deregulation is a beautiful thing. He cut the red tape. He wants to continue cutting red tape. Is that enough to say her rules and regulations are going to put companies at a disadvantage, perhaps put growth on the back burner? President Trump is talking all about the trajectory of growth. So what specific policies do you worry about from the Kamala Harris team? Is it regulation? Is it higher taxes? What's your story in terms of what's so significant that's going to impact us that way to lead to a recession or depression even?
Well, Maria, over the past couple of weeks, I've been in public forums and I've debated some of Vice President Harris's economic spokespeople, and I tell you, it's not a fair fight because they're fighting with one hand behind their back, and their pitch, especially to Wall Street people, is, oh, well, don't worry about the vice president's policies because Republicans are going to win the Senate. What kind of pitch is that? Oh, she will be constrained by a Republican Senate, whereas 99% of the people who are voting for President Trump want the Republican trifecta. We want to see deregulation. Harris-Biden have put in a record amount in the past year into the Federal Register of regulations.
Right.
Her tax plan, especially this tax on unrealized capital gains, is a doomsday machine. And most of all, this spending is something we have never seen before. Never seen before. 7% deficit to GDP when we're not in a recession, not in a war. And what do we have to show for it? We got 18,000 manufacturing jobs.
Look at the mortgage rate, people. I told y'all, mortgage rates.
Jobs,
look at it.
It looks like that machine is
personal
stuttering.
savings.
And Maria, most of all,
personal savings,
under
bro.
Biden and Harris, only the big win, and only the upper end wins. The top 20% of individuals and households have never done better. The bottom 50% is getting killed. The biggest corporations are doing well, and the National Association of Small Business numbers are dismal.
Yeah, well, that's a lot of information there. Thank you for that. Can the Fed rescue us out of this? I mean, the Federal Reserve is kicking off its two-day monetary policy meeting this Wednesday. This is it. This is the November meeting. Chairman Jay Powell spoke about it coming, and he's going to speak on Thursday when the meeting is up. We'll see if on Thursday he is talking about a cut in interest rates. The futures market is fully pricing in a 25 basis point cut after the presidential election. Scott, is that where you are here? Do you expect rates to come down after the election further?
Well, look, they blocked themselves into this rate cut. They did this inappropriate jumbo rate cut in September. Maybe they knew something we didn't know about the state of the economy, but they cut rates. But the 10-year bond is up the most in 2 years. We've had a 70 basis point increase in rates, and the 10-year is what affects most financing decisions. It affects mortgage rates. So we'll see what happens if they cut 25 here. Maybe the long end of the market goes up even more. The only thing that's going to pull the long end down is the depressive effect of a Kamala Harris presidency.
Yeah. Job growth slowed considerably last month. You just mentioned the horrible jobs numbers that we got on Friday. The Labor Department reporting that only 12,000 jobs were added to the economy in the month of October. The expectation was 113,000. Scott, I know that there was a lot of noise in the month of October. There were, 2 hurricanes. There was a Boeing strike, which, by the way, their machinists are going to vote on another offer today. But still, this was wildly lower than expectations. Your thoughts on the jobs number, how it may impact the election as well?
Well, I think that we're seeing the preview. And at the end of the day, Maria, you and I have talked about the bifurcated economy before. And it's not the number that's going to affect the election. It's the way the American people are feeling. The American people, we've had an affordability crisis. The American people, they can't afford groceries. 2 out of 5 credit cards in America are maxed out. And I had a conversation with President Trump yesterday. I'm going to join him on the campaign trail today. And I said, sir, I'm looking forward to you winning with a Republican sweep, and we can have a new golden age in America with deregulation, low-cost energy, low taxes, and most of all, we can get our confidence back.
Yeah. Are you expecting to be part of the cabinet, Scott?
Yeah, I will do whatever President Trump wants me to do. If he says, Scott, you're better on the outside, please call me once a week, tell me how you think my team's doing. If he says, Scott, I'm into the Ukraine war, would you go back over and help them rebuild their economy? I'll do whatever he wants. Wow. This is his to decide, and no one has taken as much the shrapnel, literal shrapnel, and worked as hard. This is the greatest comeback story in history. Yeah. And, I trust him to do what's best for the country.
So, Scott, real quick, if you are a member of the economic team there in President Trump's cabinet, what would be your number one or first priority in January?
Well, Maria, whether I'm on the inside or the outside, the extending or making permanent the Tax Cuts and Job Act is the priority. Yeah, because if it doesn't happen, this will be the largest tax increase in U.S. history. And, I think we're going to unleash animal spirits when President Trump and the Republicans win tomorrow. Then we've got to make this permanent, and we'll give the business and households the confidence to really get on a glide path, into the next 4 years.
All right. Well, that would be nice. Scott.
I told you guys this will be the greatest comeback in American history when it comes to Donald J. Trump winning this election. This is just my opinion. If he wins, this would be the greatest story, greatest comeback. Matter of fact, just give him the Guinness World Record because shoot. All right, let's listen to what the president is talking about, because now President Joe said some things, and of course the media is going to take it to the next level since it's the eve of election day. Let's get it.
Sandra, the sitting president is supposed to be the top surrogate, but President Biden isn't even spending this part of his Sunday calling influential thinkers or labor leaders. He is right now at lunch at a golf course in Delaware, close to his home. His last scheduled stop in a swing state, stumping for Harris, sounded a little something different than we've heard.
When I was in Scranton, we used to have a little trouble going down the plot once in a while from Greenwich. But I'm serious. These are the kind of guys you like to smack in the ass.
According to various reports, President Biden and his inner circle kept dates on his schedule open to go stump for Harris, and the Harris campaign just never really came calling. He has recently proven to be a distraction to the vice president following Garbagegate, and progressives are urging the president to channel his feelings from July when he dropped out.
I mean, if I was Joe Biden, and I knew, look, his legacy obviously is at stake in this election, and he is the president of the United States, got a lot of work to do as president, I would probably look at the numbers, I would look at the race and say, I'm going to focus on being president over the next couple of days. And that's probably the best, that's the best thing he can do for not just the Harris campaign, but himself and his legacy too.
The vice president's Tuesday night election headquarters is going to be just 2.5 miles away from here. We haven't yet been told that President Biden has even been invited, but that tracks with what we saw a couple days ago. She was on the ellipse giving a speech. He was in the White House, not part of it.
Boy, you know, it's getting more and more pathetic every day, Jesse. Usually when you smack somebody in the ass, it's a player it's a teammate who makes a great play, scores a winning goal. Is he senile, stupid, or both?
I sometimes smack you in the ass after a great show, Greg.
That is true.
Your Friday exclamation point out. That a boy.
HR knows about this.
Keep it up. You said you liked it. So Biden in just 24 hours in the last week said he's going to lock up Trump and smack his garbage supporters in the ass. And then he's like, and then pass the baby feet. I mean, this guy is out of his mind. They've confiscated his phone. They've confiscated his laptop, but he keeps escaping the White House and giving speeches. I don't know what's going to happen because he's now at a point where he doesn't give a you-know-what. And so he doesn't even care about his presidential library. He's supposed to invite people to come over and spend the night in the Lincoln bedroom, but he's like, I just don't really feel like it. But it's like $300 million to do a library like that. And he's calling donors, and the donor's like, let's just wait until after the election before I open my wallet. Because why would you give money to Joe Biden at this point? It's just a waste. He's very old, and his legacy is really bad. Kamala, if she loses, that lunch that she has weekly is going to be great. It's probably just going to want to drown him in a soup because she got to hate this guy. He's responsible for probably 3 or 4 of the worst news cycles she's had. I just can't wait to see the letter that he has to leave Trump in that desk if she loses. It's probably going to be something like, Dear Garbage, you beat 2 women, but you didn't beat me, Jack. Sincerely, the big guy.
Yeah, see you in the alley.
Yeah,
right.
That's right.
Judge, it is incredible how little the media and most people care about the current state of the presidency. I mean, they're acting like this election on Tuesday is the biggest thing ever, while ignoring the fact we haven't had a president for how long?
I think about a year and a half. Yeah. But you know what's amazing is they only sideline Joe when they think that he's going to harm them politically. But when he comes out and says stuff that is, that we criticized him about, they said, it's a cheap fake, it's disinformation, it's misinformation. But when it hurts them, then of course they're going to sideline him. But besides locking up Trump, the thing that I think is most outrageous, he wants to take him behind the high school, the gym, and beat him up. But when he said he'd like to put him in the bullseye, and I think it was 4 days later, Trump was shot in the head. I mean, the Democrats get away with anything. And in the end, I think that all you have to do is just look at him saying that, smack him in the ASS. He just looks so mean, so angry, and the man should not be running the country. And the fact that they've hidden him is really a sad commentary on what they're going to do in the next administration.
Isn't that the big revelation, Harold, that we've learned that maybe America doesn't need a president? We haven't had one. Maybe it's just run by a big, dark machine, right? The deep state, Harold, that you are a part of. Why don't you just come out and admit it?
I differ with you guys on this one. I think we need a president. I think the country, one of the reasons Democrats believed that it was the right thing to do to move on to Vice President Harris and President Biden agreed. I think his legacy will be big. I think, Jesse, because of that, you've never had a president give up the presidency in the first term like this. You did have.
He didn't give it up willingly, Harold.
You had LBJ and you had Truman, but at the same time, you've not seen something quite like this. And Judge, I would remind everybody around the table, there were moments, I think rightly so. I think some people around the table and other places call it elder abuse to even have him in this job for this period of time, and he should not seek re-election. And I think, Greg, in fairness to you, saying that you think that he should have been removed before the election, I don't necessarily think that is the case, but Democrats moved on from him. Now, one of the things I think is interesting is if you look at some of the late polling here, it appears that some of those late deciders in the battleground states are deciding a little bit more for Kamala than for President Trump. This is just the exit polling. People could be misrepresenting or just lying. But one of the things they're saying is that they're ready to move on too from President Trump. That just the language and the narrative and the negativity, they just don't want that over the next 4 years. But we've got 2 days, 2 or 3 days here, or 2 days before the polls close, and probably take another week to count them all across the country. And I'm going to be as interested in the gender gap and other things that Dana talked about. But President Biden will have a good legacy from whether win or lose. I think the country, Democrats certainly will appreciate his 4 years and what he did to make way for another generation of leadership.
I lost interest in the last minute of what you said.
I did too.
This is the way it always goes. By the way, we'll know that how mad Biden is if the FCC does go after SNL. Yeah. Like he's behind the scenes like, wait, maybe you can get him. Look, I kind of want to laugh at that, but also he's the president of the United States of America. So that kind of concerns me that he's with gusto saying those kind of things on the trail. I'm sure she doesn't appreciate it. And the thing about unity is I do have trouble unifying with someone who calls half the country fascists and fascist supporters and the allies who call the Madison Square Garden rally a Nazi rally. Like, I do think it's hard to come together in that way. And I think that undercuts her message.
Well, Joe Biden has a pattern of saying things like this. It seemed to go over well with the crowd, although probably less well with much of America. This type of rhetoric, he talks about wanting to lock President Trump up, saying that half the country is garbage, that you want to do this to the people who are passing tax cuts. It's probably part of the reason why Joe Biden is struggling with favorability. His job approval rating right now, according to the Real Clear Politics average, is 40%. That's well below previous presidents at this point in their presidency, including Donald Trump. And so there's a reason why Kamala Harris is probably wanting to sideline him. She wants everybody to forget that she is his vice president.
Yeah, I think somebody put in a call and said, you're wanted in the Situation Room, Mr. President. But, you know, Joe Biden, from his party and from the media, gets a pass on this stuff. I mean, he wanted to take Trump out behind the barn. Now he says that he'd like to smack him, you know where. Trump says something about Liz Cheney, that if she were out in the battlefield, is the context in which he was saying this, her view on war might be a lot different. The Harris campaign, the legacy media goes crazy. I even noticed that you and your colleague Jonah Goldberg had to go around about it when he admitted that he had taken it out of context when he said it was horrible.
Yeah, well, and what's a shame about that is it's a really good discussion to have about how we fight wars, whether we should be fighting wars without a strategy for success, whether the way that we've been fighting wars for the last few decades is really in the American interest. That's one of the reasons why people like President Trump. And so when he talks about that, that resonates with a lot of veterans of some of those recent interventionist wars who feel that we should be much wiser about how we handle our foreign policy and minding American interest. But you don't get that kind of discussion because people in the media don't want to. Likewise, much worse than this rhetoric about beating people up is that the Biden-Harris administration actually has used lawfare against their political opponents, whether those are parents at school board meetings or pro-lifers or protesters or Donald Trump himself, who they tried to remove from the ballot, who they've tried to imprison, who they've tried to bankrupt. These are very serious issues, lawfare, foreign policy, that people are voting on, but a lot of our media doesn't cover it as the important issues they are.
Just so folks at home have the full context, Jonah Goldberg, who used to appear frequently on Fox News, said on Friday that Trump had called for Liz Cheney to be put in front of a firing squad, and then later walked it back to say, oh, no, that's not the context of what he was saying. New York Times Siena poll, it's got a lot of interesting findings in it, including this, that the New York Times finds that late deciders are breaking Harris's way 55 to 44. Typically, in a very close election, late deciders will break as a group. What does this potentially say about what we'll see on Tuesday?
Well, I think it really explains what we've seen in the last week of the campaign and media coverage. So you have people saying things on both sides, but you have the media really focusing on they're focusing on the issues in a way to sort of advantage Vice President Harris. That matches with the media coverage that we've seen for Vice President Harris thus far. They know that Donald Trump is actually in very good poll position, particularly relative to where he was 4 or 8 years ago. And so one of the tried and true techniques is to drive up someone's unfavorables, and so you're seeing that reflected in the media coverage. Whether those polls are accurate, whether the New York Times is accurate, whether they actually understand what's going on in the country. I mean, one of the things they said in their polling was that they have over-response from Democrats and under-response from Republicans. So, I mean, who knows what's going to happen?
I mean, Biden yesterday said that Republicans like Trump are the kinds of guys you'd like to smack in the It's Sunday, so we'll say tail. But care to translate?
I don't even know what that means.
I don't either.
I don't even. Look, I sat on this couch the day after the Biden-Trump debate in June. And my party went through a ton of hand-wringing over many weeks that resulted in us realizing that our candidate was too old and too, I don't know what the other words are, to continue to run in this campaign. And I was actually proud of that process and that decision. And we're sitting here today with, you're right, Joe Biden, there is nothing left on the fastball. Like, I don't think he should be out there on the campaign trail. I think he's done a wonderful job in many ways as president. I think the fact that we have Barack Obama, Bill Clinton, Michelle Obama, these crowds they're getting on the campaign trail are phenomenal. And I think I look at the other side, and they now have the old candidate in the race. They have the candidate now who rambles on the stump, who says things that are totally incoherent, who by the way, in September called supporters of Kamala Harris absolute garbage
Many
and
Republicans
scum.
would take issue with that and the rambling.
Can I just
they
ask,
see someone who's very sharp. But I do want to ask.
Can I ask Marie?
I do want to ask you because we have
That's
seen.
what I
Biden.
Can I ask Marie?
One moment,
What?
Larry.
I'm sorry.
I do just want to quickly ask you this because we have seen Biden talk. Yes, he has like the way he talks isn't always perfect. Yeah. But he has talked about foreign policy with fluidity. He is there
ramble.
with it. And yet he made
Sharp
the
as
Trump lock
7 to
him
8
up
years
comment.
old
He made the
abs.
garbage comment, and he made this. Is there any chance there's some intention here? Because he's not a dumb person.
I've seen you ask this question before, so I've thought about it. I don't think so. I just think he's not a precise speaker. And I do think whether or not you support President Trump, he is not a precise speaker. He called it this week the weave, where he goes from topic to topic and rambles and talks about sharks and Hannibal Lecter. He is not a
Man. Okay, let's get the likes up. Thank you for tuning in to the live stream. It is your boy Genesis. To double tap the screen, okay? Just double tap the screen to like the show. Double tap the screen. Just double tap your screen twice, and you would have given the show a like, okay? All right, let's listen to what CNN is talking about when it comes to Harris' closing speech. They're saying Trump is missing from there, okay? Let's listen.
2 days ago, I heard from strategists, even in our own party, who were saying, oh my God, she shouldn't be talking about, the negativity of Donald Trump. She needs to focus on herself. She needs to bring the joy back. Now that she's brought the joy back, you have people saying, oh, well, she should be making the contrast. I think they have run this campaign incredibly well, and they have the data. They understand what people want. And to your point, when you have Donald Trump filleting a microphone and talking about how he wants to shoot Liz Cheney and talking about how Puerto Rico is an island of trash.
He didn't say that.
Let me clear that. You don't need to.
He wanted to shoot Liz
Okay,
Cheney. There was another analogy he was making about Liz
That she should face a
Cheney.
firing squad. That's not better.
He didn't say she
But
should
anyway,
face a
what
firing
I'm
squad.
saying,
Hold on one
saying
second.
is that
We just
she doesn't need to make
we talked about this on Friday.
Can we do a correction here, Abby?
I'm trying to.
Okay,
If you would
I'm
let me
sorry.
talk.
I'm sorry. Are you the host?
I'm trying to, if you would let me talk. Look, the comments that he made about Liz Cheney, as we discussed on the show on Friday after he made them, he talked about how if she's sending people to war, how would she feel if there were guns pointed at her? Those comments were not appropriate. They weren't a firing squad, but they were also not appropriate. But what is you were saying that she's running on a negative campaign. They're actually pivoting into the final stages right now, and that's the message.
Yes, here with a handful of hours to go. I mean, she doesn't have to attack Donald Trump, I guess, because she's done it every single day of the campaign since she got into it. It's been a relentlessly negative and relentlessly dishonest campaign. And here at the end, they want credit for trying to be positive and unifying after a week of Republicans are Nazis. Republicans are garbage. Republican women are weak and stupid. So I get it. I understand why they would want to tout this one time that she didn't relentlessly go negative and dishonest against Donald Trump. But to me, the bulk of the campaign is obvious. It is, they are betting all their chips on there's just enough people in the country who hate or are willing to fear Donald Trump to win. That's about all they've got.
So wait, hold on. Is the problem the negativity and the dishonesty? Because if that were the case, then I would expect you to criticize Trump for that too.
Look, I think Donald Trump has run a campaign of some negativity and also some what I want to do.
Some negativity.
And I think Kamala Harris has been frightfully vague
so do you
about
think
what
that
she wants to do.
Who's been more negative, Kamala Harris or Donald Trump?
Harris, without question.
Oh, come on, Scott. Are you serious?
I think that you are a very good representative of conservatives who are more aligned with Trump, obviously, than Harris. But I think that it would be dishonest to not acknowledge that Donald Trump goes up on that stage almost every day. He doesn't even focus on his opponent's policies. He calls her stupid every day.
I think it would
every
be...
day, literally every day.
And I personally
of course it's
think it would be dishonest not to acknowledge that the bulk of the attacks that Kamala Harris lodges against Donald Trump range from basically dishonest to absolutely, I can't believe they're getting away with this, dishonest. On policy, on all sorts of things. And I feel like this goes unacknowledged because of how Trump operates, and I fully admit that he says things that get our attention and that sound outrageous
and incredibly
negative. But we don't hold her to the same level of accountability. And the bulk of their campaign against Trump has been she sits on a throne of dishonesty when it comes to his agenda. He did not write Project 2025. He did not put it in a book. He does not hand it out. And that is the bulk of their campaign, and it's ridiculous.
Well, he did do Agenda 47, which is actually.
Come on.
Well, no, that's it. That's it. It's on his website. Agenda 47.
But it's not this book
and
that
it's
they
worse.
keep talking about.
And it's worse than the book. It's like I
Why?
thought, because all the stuff that people are mad about in Project 2025, the worst of it is actually in Agenda 47. If you're at home, please Google it. Here's what I would say. You're frustrated with Kamala Harris. You somehow think she's been given some kind of a cakewalk. I see it very. I see it very differently. If Kamala Harris were saying and doing the things that Donald Trump is doing, can you imagine a black woman saying the things that Donald Trump says, doing the things that Donald Trump does? It's inconceivable. She would be polling at like 2%. Yeah. In our party. And so I just think that we're kind of through the looking glass. Different people see it different ways. I think it's very hard to argue that Donald Trump, that anybody but Donald Trump can get away with the stuff he's doing. But we're talking about how we're closing. I just want to get back to that. Kamala Harris has made a decision that she wants to close on a positive message. She keeps being accused that she's too vague. She did a 2-week tour hitting every media outlet that she could. She put out actual concrete proposals and policies after policies after policies after. It was like she turned into Hillary Clinton for about 2 weeks. Yeah. People still said she was being too vague. And now she's turning to being more positive. I'm not sure that that's a great idea, but I trust. I tell you why. Because Scott thinks that we've been too nice to Donald. I think we should be harder on Donald Trump at the close.
Go hard or go home.
But I do. I think we should be.
Do you think there is a single voter out there who has not yet heard enough negativity about Donald? Like one more negative thing would help you win?
I will talk about it in my hot take.
Let me ask. Well, I think that's a good question for Kristen. I remember when after the town hall that we did with Harris, there were a bunch of Pennsylvania voters, and several of them were like, "Enough with the negativity. We are tired of hearing negative things." Even though negativity does work, it does work. I mean, is it wise for her to go positive at this stage?
I think so, in part because I think voter views of Donald Trump are so well established. People know how they feel about him. And we have been sitting around tables like this for 8-9 years now, where Donald Trump says something nutty and everybody goes, is this the thing that's going to make everybody not like him anymore? And every single time his numbers barely budge. They budged after something big like January 6th. But him standing up at a rally and saying something nutty yet again doesn't move it. And so that's why I think for Harris, the question for voters who go, oh, I hate this election, is can she cross a threshold of credibility? Can she cross a threshold of, okay, fine, maybe I could live with her as president for 4 years.
Oh, election eve, people. Double tap your screen like this. And let's get the likes up. Subscribe to the channel. You've heard CNN. The vice president is doing what she can. She was on SNL last Saturday. So, of course, she's doing all she can. That's why she didn't go on Joe Rogan because, if you know your product, you have to go where your product sells. Okay, you don't take your product to where it's not gonna sell. So I commend her campaign team for taking her to SNL, and I commend Trump's team for taking him to Joe Rogan because that is what he's supposed to do. And may the best man win, or may the best. I mean, because at this point it's like. However, I voted for the legendary, the 45th Donald J. Trump. Okay, let's listen to Vivek. Vivek Ramaswamy spoke about the start line for reviving this country is going to be on election day tomorrow. All right, let's listen to Vivek right here on Fox.
Former presidential candidate Vivek Ramaswamy is here. All right, Vivek, this thing they say is tight. Every vote counts. What are you feeling and what are you hearing?
So look, Jesse, I'm going to tell it to you like I see it. There's two possibilities here. One is we all have our heads stuck in our algorithmic echo chambers and we're seeing one view of the world. And I'd like to think that's not the case. The other possibility, which I think is going to be the case, is that Trump wins this decisively. And I think he has an opportunity to do something historic, not just win an election, but to actually rebuild the Republican coalition, a multi-ethnic, working-class coalition of voters that have redefined the Republican Party, that does what Reagan last did in the 1980s. That's the last time I think we will have seen this kind of election. So I hope I'm not eating my words 48 hours or 72 hours from now, but I don't think I will be. I think that we're seeing the makings of history right now. And I think it could be the single event that not only wins this election, but unites the country. And that's why I'm encouraging everybody I'm talking to. I was in Pennsylvania. I was at the Penn State-Ohio State game. I was telling people the same thing is November 5th is not the destination. It is the start line for reviving this country. I think people are hungry for it. And I think we feel pretty good, Jesse.
Well, I hope you're right. No one wants you to be more right than I do, Vivek. But in 2022, we all thought it was going to go one way. Kind of didn't. Women showed up big. The candidates didn't really perform like they thought we would. Is that a possibility this time that we just don't see the wave of women coming?
Look, making the predictions as of today, anybody's predictions are fair game, Jesse. I'm focused on what we can do to actually change that outcome, right? And this is in the hands of actual everyday Americans. In particular, I think one thing that's going to swing this election, unlike any other, is Gen Z turnout, especially in places like Pennsylvania. I was at that football game on Saturday. I was on college campuses in Pennsylvania the prior week beforehand. I think we're going to see Gen Z turnout like we haven't seen in a very long time. If they come out in droves, and what I'm seeing is a big turn amongst young voters to Trump in a way that hasn't been true for Republicans in a generation, if not ever. And if they actually show up, these first-time so-called low-propensity voters, I think that could be the margin here. If they don't show up, I think it's a different story. And so I'm less focused on making the predictions and more focused on what we can do to actually get the outcome that we know is right for the country. And especially for Gen Z. I mean, if we're in World War III, it's going to be somebody else's gun over their shoulder. It's going to be the national debt that falls on their shoulder. So in many ways, they have the most skin in the game. They have the lightest voting participation in the past. I think they're going to come out in droves for Trump if they come out. And so our focus right now is less than sitting back and making the predictions, actually driving the kind of voters we need to get to the ballot box and secure victory and I think save this country.
We're hearing a lot about New Hampshire all of a sudden. We're hearing stuff about Virginia, New Jersey. A little birdie told Trump something about New Jersey. What are those little things telling you?
Well, look, I think one of the things that we've seen from Donald Trump this cycle, which is unique, is he's not just going to the traditional swing states. I mean, we were together at that Madison Square Garden rally in supposedly hard blue New York really. With 200,000 people lined up outside. And so what we're seeing across the country, and I think this is true to the campaign, Donald Trump and the Republicans that are running for office, we're not just running to lead one party, to lead red states, but to lead the United States. And so I think it's a beautiful thing. Donald Trump is making that stop in Virginia, speaking about New Jersey, showing up in the middle of New York City, hard Manhattan, would have been unimaginable before. That's the opportunity ahead of us, is to unite a nation. That's what's at stake here. The Democrats are playing divide and conquer. You look at the identity politics game they've played all the way to selecting the top of their ticket, and for that matter, identity politics and selecting Tim Walz as their VP. We're rejecting that, and I do think that there's a special opportunity here We're all going to be thrilled if Donald Trump wins on election night, as we expect. There's only one person who I think could be more thrilled than any of us, Jesse, and that's probably Joe Biden. That's a matter for another day. But I do think that we are going to have a winning coalition here that unites the country, maybe even Joe Biden along with us.
All right. Well, like you said,
Thank you for tuning in to the live show. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen, subscribe to the channel. Okay, you've heard from Vivek. C. Shelley also said she is so anxious, just like Christmas Eve. To be truthful with you guys, I'm not even anxious one bit. You know why? Because it's like what is gonna happen is gonna happen. I mean, I want the former president to win the election. This is what I want. However, anything can happen. But I do believe 100%. This is my belief, okay? Doesn't have to be yours. This is mine. Because I don't like to be anxious for nothing. Okay, so my opinion is the legendary, the 45th will be the 47th. Okay. Well, I don't care about what that's my prediction. Okay. And if I miss, I miss. But I know for a fact that that's my 100% opinion. Okay. Okay. So the legendary Donald Trump is in North Carolina right now, and he is in Raleigh. So, because I told you he has four rallies today, He's going to North Carolina, he's going to Pennsylvania, and he's going to Michigan. Okay, two cities in Pennsylvania, one city in North Carolina, and one city in Michigan. He had three rallies yesterday, and he's having four today. He's been going for like 63 days nonstop. So this is why I say hard work and dedication, bro. He's been working so hard. He's dedicated his time, money, energy. You think he's gonna lose after all of this stuff? I don't think so. All right, let's go to Raleigh right now to listen to the 45th. Most likely gonna be the 47th. You heard it here first.
And I didn't like it. No, she's great. She loves you. She says hello. But she got the #1. That's a big achievement in life. On the New York Times list. Do you know how that book has to sell 20 times more than it should in order for her to be the #1 bestseller? So we're proud of her. She's great. And she was a great first lady. People love beautiful North Carolina. This is really the end of a journey, but a new one will be starting, and that's the one we've wanted to partake in, which is basically to make America great again. And now we'll have a chance to do it after today. Hopefully, everything will work out well. We're way leading. All we have to do is close it out. We have to close it out. If we get our vote, there's nothing they can do. This is one of those deals. If we get our vote, we're leading every swing state, which is unheard of for the Republican Party. They're always up at the end. They always were good finishes or bad finishes, depending. Sometimes they'd get there, but you'd always go in by losing hundreds of thousands of votes, and you'd watch it like a racehorse, and sometimes they'd get there, and sometimes they wouldn't. But with North Carolina, I always got there because we won every race, every primary. So essentially, they have an expression. I hate the expression, actually, but it's ours to lose. Does that make sense to you? It's ours to lose. If we get everybody out and vote, there's not a thing they can do. And if we don't, they have to get every person that ever signed anything in that horrendously dangerous party that's going to destroy our country. And it already is destroying our country. We just can't let that happen. We cannot let that happen. So here's my only purpose in even being here today. Get out and vote. You know that. I'm thrilled to be back in this beautiful state with thousands of proud, hardworking American patriots. That's what you are. You're patriots. You built this country. You built this country. But I'd like to begin by asking a very simple question. Are you better off now than you were 4 years ago? I've asked that question so many times. I've never had one hand go up for the other. With your vote tomorrow, I will end inflation. I will stop the invasion of criminals coming into our country. Which I happen to think is the absolute worst thing that has ever happened to our country. I've never seen it. They're putting in murderers, releasing all of their prisoners from jails all over the world, not South America, all over the world, into our country. I think it's the worst thing. You know, in the polling, when I see the polling, I see that inflation and the economy are number one, which is sort of standard. But I really would like to put that, because we're going to close up that border so fast. We're going to get those people out of here. And she's not going to do it. She couldn't do it if she wanted to. She wouldn't know what to do. They have open borders. And you know what? If things went bad today, you would have, and tomorrow, you would have open borders the first day of that. And you'll have, they have 21 million people that they let into our country. Many of these people are murderers. Think of it. 13,099 are murderers. The big drug lords. The prison population from countries all over the world. And if I ran a country, I'd say, get my prisons. Open borders. They just walk in. No vetting. Think of it. No vetting. We have no idea who they are. You're not allowed to ask. You're not allowed to ask. They just walk right into our country. And they kill people. You have murders. So you have 13,099 murders. Many of them have killed far more than one person. Bad things are going to happen. And you have terrorists at levels that we've never seen before. We had terrorists down the lowest we've ever. I had in 2019, and this isn't done by me, this is done by Border Patrol, which, by the way, endorsed me. They gave me a great endorsement. They said, he's the greatest president ever. He's the greatest president. The head guy, boy, Paul was great. He made a beautiful speech, but he said, he's the greatest president our country has ever had. I said, does that include Lincoln, Washington, and a couple of others? But it's very nice. But they gave me the strongest endorsement. And I have to say this, in the same little speech, they said she's the worst thing to ever happen to our country. And it's very hard for them to say that. She never made one phone call in 4 years to the Border Patrol. How we doing? I used to drive them crazy. They probably said, oh, no, it's the president again. Yes, yes, we're fighting our president. Yes. I used to drive them nuts. When I had nothing to do, I said, call the Border Patrol. And we got, just drop that chart, please. That chart, my all-time favorite chart. My all-time favorite chart. I love that chart. Oh. I sleep with that chart. I kiss it every night before I go. Because I wouldn't be here if it weren't for the chart. If you take a look at the arrow on the bottom, that was the day I left office. That was the lowest illegal immigration we ever had. And I kept it pretty good. And then you take a look, and we had Mexico pay for their soldiers. They didn't want to pay for their soldiers. I said, you have to give us soldiers while we build the wall. And they paid so much money to us, and they said, we're not going to do that. They actually laughed at me when I suggested it, and I said, here's what I'm going to do. I'm going to put a tariff of 100% on all your cars and everything that comes into the United States. They said, you know what they said? Sir, we would be greatly honored to let you have our soldiers free of charge. Thousands. How many would you need, sir? I said, as many as it takes. And they were great. They made a big contribution to our security, let me tell you. But they got to stop with, now we're talking Turkey. One of the first calls I'm going to make is to Mexico. You stop letting people come in through our border and come in through your southern border, and you stop it. Because Mexico, and I had a great relationship with the president, but he retired now. He left. He was a good man. He was a socialist. You can't have everything, but he was a good man. But they paid a fortune for the soldiers along the border. We were able to have great numbers. Well, built 571 miles of wall. I was going to add 200 more. By the way, far more than I said. I was talking about 200, 250. We built 571. And nobody talks about it. And you know what I did? Because we had a Congress that was not behaving, I said, I don't care. This is an invasion of our country. I'm taking it out of the military. And I took it out of the military because I gave them $725 billion. I say, congratulations, fellas, I'm taking out 10. What is it for, sir? It's called a wall because we're being invaded by Mexico. But now we have a new president in Mexico. Supposed a very nice woman. They say I haven't met her. And I'm going to inform her on day one or sooner that if they don't stop this onslaught of criminals and drugs coming into our country, I'm going to immediately impose a 25% tariff on everything they send in to the United States of America. And the reason I delayed that, you're the first ones I've told it to. Congratulations, North Carolina. And it's only got a 100% chance of working, because if that doesn't work, I'll make it 50. And if that doesn't work, I'll make it 75 for the tough guys, and I'll make it 100. Then I'll make it 100. And at some point, they'll have so many soldiers on their southern border. You know, their southern border is where they come in. They come right through. And by the way, it has a 100% chance of working. It's only a question. I'll start off at 25%. That's a lot. Do you know Mexico's our #1 trading partner? Do you know what that costs? They make a fortune. They've taken over our country in a way since this Biden-Harris people. They became our #1 trading partner, and they're ripping us off left and right. It's ridiculous. They're not going to rip us off. They wanted $3 billion to meet with Biden. They wouldn't have said that with me. I would have said, oh, really? You want $3 billion to meet? I'd do the opposite. If you don't give us $3 billion, I'll impose the biggest frickin' tax. You know, I've never told you any of this, and I wanted to wait till the day because I don't want to have her. She's a low IQ individual. I don't want to have her say, you know, I had an idea last night while I was sleeping, turning, tossing, sweating. Because I sleep, I turn and I toss and I sweat and I sleep like no, I don't even sleep. You know, I've gone through 62 days without a day off. Every single day. Every single day. And you know what? She takes a day off every other day. Last week, she makes a terrible little, she has these press conferences that last for about 2 minutes, and then she takes the day off. You know, when you're running for the president of the United States and you want to do it because you have to fix the country, that's the way I'm doing. Otherwise, I wouldn't do it. I could be at the most gorgeous beaches in the world right now. But I'd much rather be with you people because you people I like you people better. I'd much rather be with you. No, I would. No, and we're doing something historic. You know what we're doing? This has never been done before. They'll never have rallies like this. You know, we went to Milwaukee the other night, and we're doing great in Wisconsin, by the way. We could have filled that arena. What do they have? 28,000 seats, including the floor, fully packed. We could have filled that arena 3 times, maybe 4 times. The people outside, thousands and thousands of people. There's never going to be that. In 4 years, you're going to have a candidate, Republican, Democrat candidate, and they're going to come to North Carolina, right? And they're going to say, how many are there? And the consultants back there that make a fortune because they think they bring these people. You know, they don't bring, nobody brings anything. We bring them. We together bring them. But you know what they're going to say? And the same people they'll be represented, very smart people, very good people. You have to, can't give them too much leash. We can't give them too much. But they're going to have 250 people come. And that's standard. See the ladies of North Carolina? They've come. They've come. Those beautiful, beautiful ladies. They're looking better and better all the time. These beautiful ladies. And I think they're very well to do. I mean, they're always so beautiful, beautifully coiffed. Look at that. They're just, but here's what I love. They're great Americans. They love our country. They love North Carolina. They come from Isn't it nice where you can sort of be closer? They'll travel to California. If I went to Hawaii, they'd be in Hawaii. I think they're loaded. You want to know the truth? I think their husbands. The reason I never see their husbands is because they're working like hell. Because these wives are traveling all over the place. 257, they've been at 257 rallies. And their husbands are going to be so happy when this ends. But I don't want, and you know exactly what I'm saying, I didn't want to say this about what I'm going to do at the border. I stopped at the biggest auto plant in the world from being built on the border. China, and I have a lot of respect for China. Look, they're smart as hell. They get angry when I say it, the fake news. So, they're smart as hell. They're like playing chess and grandmasters against playing an average checker player and maybe a less than average checker player. The deals, when I came into office, I've never seen such bad deals with Japan, with China, with the worst trade deals. I actually said, there's only two reasons we could have deals so bad. The people making the deals were corrupt, which I actually believe, or they were very stupid. And I think you had a combination of both. And we fixed a lot of those deals. We would have had them all fixed up, but then we had to fix COVID. But we had the greatest, think of it, we had the greatest economy in the history of our country. The greatest. We had the greatest border. That's done by Border Patrol. That's not a Trump special. That's done by Border Patrol. That lovely, gorgeous, I look at it, I get tears in my eyes. And you know, the day of that horrible situation in Butler, it was just about there. It's weird that you have it almost, because it's usually all over the place. You have no idea where it's coming up. When I say lift up the sign, I usually have to look all over. There, I have one over there. But that graph is so meaningful because but even if the numbers were bad, I would still kiss it just equally. But those are the best numbers in the history of the border. And then look, it was like an Elon Musk rocket ship went up. They announced they were going to open the borders. I thought they were kidding. I built 200 miles of rail, and this is what Border Patrol wanted. I wanted to have concrete plank like in a parking lot, straight up and down the air, but you wouldn't get vision, and concrete is not as strong in terms of steel. They had very strong specifications. They wanted to have steel, hardened steel, very hard to cut. Then they wanted to have very powerful, high-number concrete, it's a very hard concrete. And then they wanted to have rebar at the highest level of steel strength in the middle, because it's very hard to cut. It's like, it can be done if you're really good, but it's very hard. And then they wanted to have a anti-climb panel on top. I hate it. I hate the anti-climb. I said, I don't like it. It's so beautiful without that damn panel. I said, don't make me do that, sir. It's an anti-climb panel, and it's called that for a reason. And we actually had testers. We had two guys that climbed Mount Everest. I said they should qualify. But you know who the best were? We had drug runners. These guys are unbelievable. They went up that thing like it was nothing. Like I never, with 75 pounds of drugs on their back, drug runners. They were beating the Mount Everest. Well, it's a different profession after all. But they were right. That anti-climb panel stops them cold. They couldn't get over the anti-climb, so I said, let's do it. Let's do it. But we built 200 miles of additional, and all they had to do was put it up. The hard work was done. They were built, it was delivered, and the hard work was done. Highest specification, cost more money than what I would have done, but what I would have done, they have acids that actually melt concrete. They have certain acids that you put down. Those planks would have come down very easy. These guys are ingenious. You know, if they would spend their brains on good, everything in the world would be nice. No, they're genius. The way they smuggle drugs into our country. You got to see the cars. They build cavities in engines. So you're inspecting a car. They have them in hubcaps that even if you take the hubcap, you can't find them. It's like a double hubcap. It's the craziest thing. if they would spend that genius on doing good for their country or for us, I mean, we would have no problem. I mean, it's really incredible. And, you know, the people that do the trafficking, what they do with the women is, they put them in trunks of cars. It's mostly women, by the way. Mostly women. A lot of people say traveling and trafficking. But the trafficking is women. And the reason is it's become as big as the drugs. And the reason is because of the internet. The internet made it a modern business and a big business. And I'll tell you, some of these guys are among the richest people in the world. And they run a real operation. And they essentially take care of Kamala because they even have an app where they can call. So they learn where they can drop people that they're putting into the country, where they can come through with drugs. They have an app. Can you believe you call an app? You're now a drug trafficker or a human trafficker, and you say, ding, 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 hello? Where do I drop these people? Go about 7 miles up and then go a mile left and just drop them at the opening in the gate. Okay, can you believe this? This is Kamala. So all that stuff ends very quickly. We'll get that thing built. But they could have put up 200 miles. Oh, you know what they did with that expensive stuff? And it's expensive. They had it laying in the sand, laying in the mud. It was all there to be put up. All they had to do is flip it up. It goes like, they put it up real fast. 3 weeks. The whole thing, we would have had 750 miles of wall. Think of it. And boy, walls work. Walls work and wheels work. You know, they never get obsolete, right? The computers, in about 2 minutes, they're obsolete. And, but we have the best computer guy there is, right? We have Elon, and he loves it. And you know where Elon is right now? Elon is right now. He's in Pennsylvania campaigning because he thinks it's the single most important thing he's ever worked on. Elon Musk, and we want to thank him. He's an amazing guy. When I saw that rocket came down, when I saw that sucker come down, 22 stories, by the way. You know, people think it's like 5 feet high. It's 22 stories. That sucker's coming down, and it's those engines were blowing. He says it's all computers. You know, it's true. That thing. I said, oh man, it's going to crash. No, dude, it's going right into the gantry. Right? It's going to crash. And then the engines, the fire starts blowing. The bottom left, the whole bottom left is blowing, and it just pushed it up. And then it came down, and those two big arms, you saw the arms? They grabbed that thing like you grab your beautiful baby. See, I've gotten much better. Years ago, I would have said something else, but I've learned. You have to learn. I would have been a little bit more risque. Like you grab your child, and put it in place, and I called Elon. I said, was that you? Yes. And he said, that's genius. He said, yeah, it was a lot of brain power went into that. I said, why do you do that? He said, well, we don't want to drop a ship in the ocean every time it goes, and you have to start all over. Those things cost billions of dollars. He said, this way we save them. I said, can Russia do that? No. Will they be able to? No, not for a long time. What about China? No. You know, we opened up Space Command. We did the whole thing. If we didn't do that, we'd be way, way behind. Space Force. You know, Space Force. We got one of the many. We did so many things with the tax cuts, the regulation cuts, the right to try for those people that are terminally ill. You get the right to try our medicines here instead of going to Asia and Europe. Or if you have no money going home, which is about 99% have no money and they go home. But the few people that have the kind of money you need for that, they'd go to Europe, they'd go to Asia. And we have the best labs in the world, and nobody ever talks about it. They tried to get it for 50 years. I got it done, passed through Congress. You think anything's easy to get passed through those guys? It's not easy. But we did so many things, and we've saved thousands and thousands of lives. It's worked out unbelievably. And, you know, nobody wanted it. The scientists didn't want it because they're terminally ill. They don't want to start from a terminally ill person. Looks bad on the records. They didn't want record sheets. The insurance companies hated it. It was very, very, I got everybody into a room. Our country hated it because our country will get sued when somebody's terminally ill, they die, and they sue the country. I said, you can't do that. I got everybody in the room, and I signed an agreement. Everybody agreed that we're going to work beautifully with people that are terminally ill, but they're not going to be allowed to sue anybody. If they die, they die, and if they live, it's going to be the greatest story. We have saved thousands of people, and nobody ever talks about it. Nobody ever talks about thousands and thousands. I mean, we have a person in this room who was saved by Right to Try. We're a space-age drug. They're doing things, but it takes a long time to get them approved, or I cut it in half. I cut that time in half. But the FDA takes 12 years sometimes to get something. And by the time it's approved, a lot of people are gone. So when they're terminally ill, we get them that drug right away. And they sign an agreement that I or my family will not ever, for any reason and under any circumstance, sue the United States government, such and such a drug maker, such and such a lab, Dr. Schwartz, Dr. Jones. We will not sue anybody. We just want to get better. That's all it says. Pretty good, right? That's pretty good for only a semi-non-lawyer. But that's essentially what it says. And the funny thing is the ones that were most against it were the drug companies and the labs. We have the greatest labs in the world. What we're doing, space-age things, and we got it started. It was dying on the limb before I came along. Well, NASA was dead. When I came along, all you're seeing with the space, and NASA was dead. NASA had grass growing out of its runways. They had, every time there was a crack, you had grass. This place was dead. Now it's the most vibrant center anywhere in the world. All of their centers, it's vibrant. And Elon brought it back, and the people at NASA are doing a great job. They're all working together. But we brought it back. And ultimately, we want to go to Mars and all, but what I want it for is defense. And Russia and China were killing us in space. And space is so important. It's going to end up being maybe, I don't want to say more important than the Marines, because they'll never speak to me again. But I'll tell you what, it is going to be right up there in terms of importance. It's important. If we didn't have it, we were being lapped by China. They have stuff up there. And Russia, even though they're a little bit busy killing a lot of people, a war that would have never taken place. Zero chance. I'd speak to Vladimir Putin a lot. It was the apple of his eye. Don't do it. Don't do it. I mean, I closed up his pipeline. It was dead. Nord Stream 2. Biden came in and he allowed it to go. But he closed up the Keystone XL pipeline. Think of that. I said, no, Joe, you got it wrong. You let Keystone go forward and you close up the Russian pipeline. But he did the opposite. And then they said, oh, Trump loves Russia. Trump loves Russia. It's the biggest project they've ever had. I'd close it up. Then he came in. The first day he was there, he let him build it. So what is that? Oh, that sounds so cute. I love dogs. I love dogs. We love dogs. Lara Trump, by the way, you happen to know she's married to my son, and she's the vice chairman along with Michael. They're doing an incredible job. But she would come into the office, and she loves dogs and pets, and she would get me to do things for doggies that you wouldn't believe. Dad, we have to make the cages larger. We have to provide air conditioning. Can you believe it? I didn't know too much about it, but you understand what I'm saying in these kennels where they're obviously not treated too good. I said, so do we have to give them a steam bath? Or do I? No, she was very, very strong, and I listened to her when she talks, I listen. But Laura was so incredible. As you know, she was born in North Carolina, lived here his whole life. And even Ted Budd, who's doing an incredible job. And I said, Ted, run for the Senate. And he said, I'll do it, but I'm only going to do it if Laura's not going to run. Is that right? He said, I'm only doing it if Laura. And she said, you know, I've devoted so much time and I'm raising these beautiful children. And I have a great husband and, you know, and Ted is great. She said that. She said, you have a great guy in Ted, very nice. But he did say that. And you know, a lot of people would say they'll bull through. Nobody would have had a chance. She's very, they love her. They love her in the party. They love her in the, even the Democrats love her. Can you believe it? Stand up, Ted. Stand up. And he's doing a great job, but I thought that was really nice. And she knew he would do a great job. Tomorrow you have to stand up and tell Kamala that you've had enough, you can't take anymore. You just can't. What? They're all screaming, fire her, please. I mean, what a terrible job, what they have done to our country. And you're going to say that to her. You're going to say, you've done a terrible job, you're grossly incompetent, we're not going to take it anymore. Kamala, you're fired. Get the hell out. Get the hell out of here. You're out of here. Get out of here. Thank you very much. So with your vote, we're going to win North Carolina, we're going to defeat Kamala, and we're going to make America great again. I hope you don't mind that entire opening, you know, I was going to get out of here fast. I'm doing 4 of these things today. They're big. And the voice is holding up just about barely. But I had to express it. You have been a very special group to me because I've won I've never lost a primary. I've never lost. In North Carolina, I've won everything. I won those elections. I've made all these friends. So I just give you a little bit of a thing. And by the way, the press will say, oh, he rambled. No, that's not rambling. You know what that is? That was genius. That's the weave. No, see, I wove, frankly, the rest of it I don't really even have to talk about. But that was the ultimate weave. And think of it, isn't it nice that you can have a president that doesn't need to use a teleprompter? Isn't it nice? And I got to go a little quicker now because you know what? I took Marco's place and I took Sarah Huckabee Sanders' place. I said, do you mind if I go now? Because you know what? We got to keep a schedule. And I'm going to ask them to come up right now. Just come up. Because I took their place. And it's so rude. Marco is a big winner, beautiful winner from Florida. As you know, he's a great guy. He's my friend. And Sarah is now the governor of Arkansas. And we love those people in Arkansas. So while I'm talking, I'm going to ask them to come. See, we're trying to conserve a little time. But they are incredible people. Oh, come on up if you can, if you're around, wherever. Come on. See? That's called efficiency. I figure Sarah would be finished now and Marco would just about be getting started. Two great friends, two very talented. No, but I figured Sarah would just about now be finishing, and Marco would be starting. And you know, he's a great speaker. They're both great speakers. They speak for a long time. And I'd be sitting in the back. I'd say, get them off the stage now. So they were so nice. And I'm going to just ask them to each say a little bit. And we're then going to make our next stop. Come on. Thank you, sir.
Good morning. It is an honor to share the stage with America's best and favorite president. And soon to be our next president again. We know we've never had a president who fights more, who fights harder, and loves this country the way that Donald J. Trump does, and that's why we need him back in the White House. every day when the left was relentlessly attacking me, it was Donald Trump who stood up for me, who empowered me, and gave me confidence to do my job. And that's what he does for every single American, every single day. He will not let us down. Make sure you get out and vote, North Carolina. We need you because America needs Donald Trump, and we're going to make it happen. Thank you so much for all you're doing.
We took, thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Wow. Unfortunately, our country took a wrong turn 4 years ago, and now we're stuck in a malaise. Everything is bad news. Our border is broken. We're not respected in the world. Hardworking men and women have been forgotten and left behind. Our allies don't trust us, and our enemies don't fear us. We are tired of living in a country that is no longer dreaming big, but that is going to change tomorrow, and you're going to help change it. Tomorrow, North Carolina and the country are going to make our 45th president our 47th president. And with Donald Trump back in the White House, together we will dream big again for this country. We will be a country that once again is proud of its history, excited about its future, because together with Donald Trump, we are going to make America not just great, but greater than it has ever been before. Thank you.
Okay, so they both did better. If they stood up here and spoke each for half an hour, what they just did was better and appreciated and brings us a little bit into schedule. You know, one thing Marco was talking and I said, you got hit so hard by that hurricane and we didn't care about what we're doing today. We only cared about saving lives. And we did a good job. FEMA did a horrible job. The administration, they're still not there. You know why? Because they've spent all their money on bringing in murderers and a lot of people. They spent all their money on bringing in illegal migrants. They've also taken a lot of your jobs, especially jobs from the black population. But think of this. When I started having to think about North Carolina a little bit in terms of a thing called the election, I said to our people back there who've been fantastic, Chris, Susie, everybody, I said, you know, we got a problem because North Carolina is reliable for me. I mean, I've never lost there. Never lost. And I don't think we're going to start now. I don't think. I've never lost there. We have a beautiful lead right now in early voting. You know, last time I wasn't leading in the first, I won it twice, but I was way behind. In fact, I went to my people. I said, hey, man, I'm like way behind here. What's going on, Michael? Right? What was it, like 200,000 votes? I said, how the hell do I win? But the later voting came in, Republican, boom, and we blew him away, right? He was right. He said, just relax. Just relax. I'm screaming, what the hell happened in North Carolina? But that's the way it works. I mean, the Republicans are used to voting late. They do it. They feel better about it. They want to be there on Tuesday. And that's all we want them to do is do the same thing that they've done. But I have to say, an amazing thing happened because I went down, I had to be the first, but I went close, but I didn't want to bother people. I mean, it was devastating. And then shortly thereafter, I went to the sites, and it was horrible. The houses were ripped. People are still missing. Many people died. A lot of people don't know. You've had terrible FEMA response, like non-existent. Franklin Graham was great, and so many other people were great. And I made a big contribution toward the effort, but I said, rather than me do it, I was ready to do it, but I said, I'll give it to Franklin and others that are doing so well there. It's amazing, some of the people that work there. So we gave them a lot of money, and they're doing a job. But no response. But you know what? I said to Michael and I said to other people, these people have been wiped out. Their houses are gone. You got to see. I mean, trees are ripped, giant trees, 10 foot in diameter. They're ripped out like they were toothpicks. I've never seen anything like it, and just clean. Not only were the houses gone, but the concrete foundations were taken out. You'd see them laying 20 miles down the road. It was the most devastating that you can imagine. I said, we'll be lucky, and this was a very Trump area. We know what that means. It's Trumpy. They call it a Trumpy area. And with a lot of love and great people, no crime, no nothing, just great people. But it was devastated, essentially destroyed. You'll probably have it built back in about 15 minutes, right? Because that's the way you are, workers. But I said, if we get 50% of the vote, I don't know they're not going to show up. So I figured anywhere, not having done this business that long, actually, I figured very accurately, anywhere from 25 to 50% of the people may come and vote. And here's what happened. The lines were through the roof. I don't know where the hell you all came from. We had a man and woman standing in line, good-looking couple, but the man's shirt had mud on it, and the woman was cloaked. It was, I said, man, look at this. And they're standing in line, getting ready to vote, and it was a long line, too. And you broke the all-time record for North Carolina early voting, right? I've never seen anything. I've never seen it. So we love you. Look, this is why our country's great, and it's people like you. It's really, really amazing. Over the past 4 years, Kamala has orchestrated the most egregious betrayal that any leader in American history has ever inflicted upon its people. She has violated her oath, eradicated our sovereign border, and unleashed an army of gangs and criminal migrants from prisons and jails and insane asylums and mental institutions all around the world, from Venezuela to the Congo in Africa, stealing countless American lives. They're killing people. They're killing people at will. Only days ago, an illegal alien from North, and this was a rough one, just happened, you know that. An illegal alien from North Africa who Kamala let into our country with her horrendous open border, just a dangerous, horrendous situation, traveled to a Jewish neighborhood in Chicago and tried to execute a Jewish man on the street, shooting him in the back as he walked to synagogue. He then opened fire on police and paramedics, shooting an ambulance before police returned fire and ended his rampage fairly quickly. Our police, and by the way, our police have got to be respected. We have to give their dignity back. We can't take their pensions, their house, their family. They want to stop crime. We have to let them stop crime. We have to give them their dignity and their honor back. In July, an illegal alien who Kamala released into our country, again with her open border, just walk right through, sir. Did he do anything wrong? And they could look, the guys from ICE, they're great, and they could look at somebody and say, they can say where he's from, what he did, how many people did he kill, and they don't like what they're doing. They have a much easier job doing what they're doing right now, but they want to stop people and they want to get them out, or they want to put them in jail. Some are so bad you can't actually let out. If you did, it would actually be dangerous just to bring them back to their countries. Their countries weren't accepting them back until I came. With Barack Hussein Obama, I call him the Great Divider. He's the Great Divider. And he hit, and Michelle hit me. I was so nice to her. Out of respect, I was so nice. She hit me the other day. I was going to say to my people, am I allowed to hit her now? They said, take it easy, sir. Sir, take it easy. My geniuses, I'm telling you, they said, just take it easy. Well, what do you mean? She said bad about me. I can't hit back. Sir, you're winning. Just relax. Is that good advice? Is that good or bad advice? I think it's neutral. You know what the response is there? It's like, nah. What do the ladies from North Carolina think about hit back or just relax? Huh? Oh, they say hit back. You say hit back. I'd actually love to hit back, but we'll hold it a little while. We'll hold it. I'd love to hit back, but oh, no, she took some shots at me the other day. I said, whoa, what have we here? I'd never heard that before. I've always treated her very nicely. But he's the great divider, Barack Hussein Obama. He's a great divider. But he never did. You know, he came out same way for Hillary. How did that work out? Oh. And here's news. It's breaking today. Sleepy Joe Biden has announced officially that he likes Trump more than he likes Kamala. And he actually hates my guts, but he likes Trump more than he likes Kamala. Oh, he hates her. They walked into the office. He just got 14 million votes. He voted for me. That's one of the ladies from North Carolina. He voted for me. She said he voted for me. He probably did, you know. Be an interest. They got to follow him in with a camera. Why not? They spied on my campaign, right? So why the hell couldn't you do that? But Sleepy Joe said, I don't want to leave. You're leaving, Joe. This was crazy, Nancy. She's such a bad one. She's already plotting a move to try and impeach him. She's a bad, sick woman. She's crazy as a bedbug. Remember she ripped up the paper behind me? You know, she could have gone to jail for that. You're not allowed to do that. I think Nancy Pelosi is a disgrace. They impeached me on no evidence. I did nothing wrong. Fortunately, the Republicans stood up for me 100%. But Nancy Pelosi is a disgrace. The hatred she brings, she's got real hatred. And yet she can sell a stock like Visa last week, right? And the following day, they announced a major investigation into Visa, but she got out. And the fake news back there does nothing about it. They should be ashamed of it. Okay. And by the way, just to get it straight, because there'll be reports, it's already probably out over the wires, I should have done it. I'm only kidding about Joe. He didn't officially say that, but I believe, okay? It's probably already out on the wires that we have an official report from, you know, because this is pretty big stuff up here. So when I say it's official, no, I'm only kidding. In July, an illegal alien who Kamala released into our country was arrested in Charlotte, North Carolina, for stalking a woman into a public bathroom and attempting to forcibly rape her. In Wilmington, North Carolina, 3 months ago, an illegal from Venezuela brutally stabbed a man to death just 4 days after he was arrested for domestic violence. But instead of being deported, this criminal alien was released so he can kill, and that's what he did. These terrible atrocities are happening every day in our cities and towns. They're going after young girls, they're going after old men, they're going after anybody that moves. They don't care. And you know, different from us, the moment they kill, they don't even think about it. We don't kill. But can you imagine if something happened and it would be devastating. They don't even think. They wake up the next morning and they don't even think about the damage and the havoc and the ruin they've caused families and the pain. And these are coming back. These people are coming into our country at levels that have never been seen in any country. No third world country would allow it. They'd stand at that border with sticks and stones and they'd say, you're not coming in here. I want you to hear directly from a mother whose world has been shattered because Kamala let savage illegal alien murderers into our country. Please.
Sunday night, I asked her to not stay up super late because of her coming to work with me in the morning first to do her summer school. She said, okay. I told her good night and I love you. I went to bed, not realizing that that was going to be the last time I saw her.
We're best friends.
Yeah.
We're going to shake it again.
I woke up to notice she wasn't in her bed. I'm in my heart trying not to lose my mind because I don't know where she is. I finally remembered her phone had a location on, and her phone was pinging just 2 minutes down the road, right behind the skate park. I start driving to the direction the phone was being pinged at, and I see a couple cop cars with lights on. I see yellow tape, and immediately my heart drops and sinks to the bottom of my stomach. My daughter's hands and ankles were both bound. She was strangled to death, left with no pants. And I know in my heart, she fought incredibly hard. She was not going down without a fight.
We begin with two men we're learning are charged with capital murder tonight, accused of killing a 12-year-old girl.
Police say these men strangled her before dumping her into that creek. Both men were in the country illegally.
Apprehended, then released by Border Patrol less than 3 weeks before Jocelyn's death. The men accused of killing Jocelyn Nungare are affiliated with the gang known for brutal violence.
Kamala Harris was in charge of immigration and our borders. If we had better border policies and not open borders and not these catch and release policies, I truly believe this all could have been prevented. Under her being vice president of this country, my daughter's life was ripped away from her. She had her entire life ahead of her.
Happy birthday, dear Jocelyn.
My daughter is 6 feet in the ground based off of policies that she allowed to keep. Kamala Harris did have one job, and she not only failed, not me, she failed my daughter, she failed Jocelyn. You know, she was only 12. President Trump reached out, gave me his sincerest condolences as not a former president, but just as a father, someone who cares. I believe Donald Trump needs to be back in office. I can at least know that my next child will be safe in this country.
Very sad. That was a few days ago that we had the news announcement, and it was the day when the Border Patrol endorsed me so strongly, and I was so honored by it. And we talked about Jocelyn. She was there and talked about Jocelyn. I mean, just so unnecessary. Would have never happened. They wouldn't have been able to get into the country. Would have never happened. So many things wouldn't have happened. Inflation wouldn't have happened. Russia, Ukraine wouldn't have happened. Israel wouldn't have happened. The October 7th Israel attack would have never happened. Those people would all be alive. Most of them are gone, I believe. I think that's part of the reason they're not wanting to negotiate so much. They said, oh, I can't believe it. They're probably, most of those hostages, sadly, I think they're possibly gone. Most of them are gone. And it would have never happened. That attack would have never happened. All those people would be alive. And the Afghanistan, the greatest embarrassment in the history of our country, I believe. They took the soldiers out first. You have to take the soldiers out last. It's very simple. Milley should have been fired. All those generals. Kelly should have been. Kelly was such a disaster. They, you know, some people are good, some people are not good. Some people are stupid. But who would think that you take the soldiers out first? Mattis made big mistakes. But remember this about our military. We defeated ISIS. And I got you into no wars because we had great people. I had mostly great people. We had mostly great people. And when I went to Washington, I didn't know anybody. I was a New York guy. I was only there 17 times, according to the media. And I went to Washington, and you know, I said, listen, I just became president, but I don't know anybody. And you rely on very good people. Some are rhinos, and you know, they're decent rhinos too, but they give you rhinos back. And we don't like the rhinos. We don't think they do the job properly. But we did a phenomenal job. I just want to say that the day that I take office, the migrant invasion ends and the restoration of our country begins. The United States is now an occupied country, but it will soon be an occupied country no longer. November 5th, 2024 will be Liberation Day in America. And on day one, I will launch the largest deportation of criminal program in American history. And a president named Dwight Eisenhower, a great general, a better president than people were saying, actually, but he believed in strong borders. He hated to see people come through our border, and he has the record right now, but I suspect that record, unfortunately, it's not something I want to do, but we have no choice. We can't allow murderers and drug dealers and all these people. They're all pouring into our country, and we can't allow it. We won't have a country left. I will rescue every city and town that has been invaded and conquered. They've been conquered. Our towns have been, you take a look at Aurora, take a look at Springfield. We have a town of 50,000 people, and they drop 30,000 illegal migrants. They used a little technicality so we don't go on, but that, to me, that's illegal. In any event, there's no way a town can subsist. You have hospitals where people who go for a checkup can't get checkups anymore. The whole place is being flooded. And they come from largely a troubled country, a very troubled country, very dangerous country, but a very troubled country. And they have another little problem. They don't speak a word of English, so the mayor, who's a nice guy, is looking for interpreters. This isn't what we're all about. 30,000 people going to a 50,000 people town. Springfield, Ohio. No problems. We had a beautiful, beautiful little town, and now it's horrible. And this is happening all over. Those are examples. Aurora, in Colorado, you have a radical left lunatic governor that has no idea what the hell he's doing. And Colorado should vote for me because of what they put me through. They tried to take me off the ballot when I was leading both the Republican and Democrat parties. And it went to the Supreme Court of the United States, and in a unanimous decision, they say, I'm sorry, you're going to have to beat him at the polls, you know? You're going to have to beat him at the polls. And hopefully they're not going to be able to do that. And the people of Colorado, you know who is more angry about that than the Republicans? The Democrats, the regular Democrats. And I think we have a chance of, I hope that Colorado's watching now, and I think we have a chance of winning Colorado because of what they did. That was, you talk about democracy. That was a threat to democracy. See, that was a real threat to democracy. And we will put the vicious and bloodthirsty criminals in a jail. We'll kick them out of the country. We'll take care of it. But to expedite removals of Tren Day, Aragua, and other savage gangs like MS-13, we have a lot of gangs. They're bad ones. They're tough people. Thank goodness we have ICE and Border Patrol, and we have great law enforcement. We have great law enforcement. I will invoke the Alien Enemies Act of 1798 to target and dismantle every migrant criminal network operating on American soil. And if they come back into our country, it's an automatic 10 years in jail with no possibility of parole. And I'm hereby calling for the death penalty for any migrant that kills an American citizen or a law enforcement officer. And I will immediately ban all sanctuary cities. They're sanctuary for criminals in the United States of America. And to secure our border and working along with all of the things we're going to be doing, we are going to rescue our economy. 4 years of Kamala has delivered nothing but economic hell for our American workers. Her inflation disaster has made life unaffordable and cost families over $30,000 in higher prices. And just days ago, we had the worst jobs report in modern history. Do you know that? I looked up, I said, thank you. Thank you. Because they tried to hold it. They tried not to put the report out. Kamala said, don't put that report, it'll cost me the election. But the problem is the fake news doesn't want to report on it. So usually you're hearing 200,000 jobs, 300,000, sometimes like 4. We had the best numbers people have ever seen. But usually you're looking at a lot of, hundreds of thousands of jobs. Routinely, it's expanding, and 12,000 jobs were created. That's a depression, 12,000 jobs were created. But that's the good news. 30,000 private sector jobs were killed in a single month. Nearly 100,000 manufacturing jobs have been wiped out since the start of this year. 150,000 Americans joined the unemployment rolls in October. This is in 1 month. I always said I would never want to have a thing like this happen. And I've been saying it's going to happen because of what they're doing, because they know nothing about economics or business, or honestly, they're stupid people. We have stupid people leading our nation. And nearly 250,000 people dropped out of the labor force. They dropped out because they couldn't get a job. And can you imagine that? Can you imagine? These are the numbers, and they don't want to talk about it, but that's okay. These numbers are disqualifying. These numbers make them, because the famous quote, it's all about the economy is stupid. We have the worst economy that we've ever had since the 1929 Depression. These are depression numbers, and it's going to get worse. But see, they'll blame it on me. She just said, they'll blame it on me. But you see, that's what I didn't want. I didn't want to be sworn in and then have these numbers come then. I said, I hope it comes before I go into office. Otherwise, I'll get blamed. I didn't want to be a certain president. Thank you. I didn't want to be a certain president that had to preside over. He got into office, and it all crashed down. People jumping off buildings. It all came. This is the beginning. Just remember this. This was an important date. Last week, the end of last week. Remember, that was a very important time. Just think, a few months ago, they fraudulently claimed 818,000 jobs were created. 818,000, and it was a fraud. When in fact, there were no jobs that were created. It was all a lie, and they thought they'd be able to get away with it through the election, but there was a whistleblower, and the whistleblower couldn't stand what they were doing and blew the whistle on them, and they got caught. And now again, they've just revised past job reports because they had another whistleblower, so they had to do it. They wanted to wait till after the election again. And they found another 112,000 fake jobs. In other words, jobs that they're reporting exist and they don't exist. It's a fraud. That's 1 million fake jobs. Now, when you look at the numbers and you see those jobs, it didn't make it look great, not like our years. But you know what it made it look like? Pretty normal, pretty good. There was no story. Meanwhile, think of this. Meanwhile, 100% of net jobs created in the last year have gone to migrants. Can you imagine? Not to our population, migrants. But these are depression-type numbers, and that's where we're heading if she's elected. Under my leadership, we're quickly going to turn this economic nightmare into an economic miracle. You'll see. And we're going to make America wealthy again. And we will make America, very importantly, affordable again, because people cannot afford the prices. The prices are too high. We're just one day away from the best jobs and biggest paychecks and the brightest economic future that the world has ever seen. But you must go and vote, and Kamala talks about fixing the economy, but why doesn't she do it? She always goes, oh, yes, we're going to do this. We're going to give you tax hikes. You know what? She wants to raise people's taxes. That's how the Depression started, by the way. Herbert Hoover. He raised the interest rates and the taxes at the same time, and it just went boom. That's what she wants to do. She wants to increase your taxes. Interest rates are too high. They are too high. Kamala's plan will impose the largest tax hike in American history and raise taxes on the typical American family by $3,000. My plan will massively cut taxes for workers and small businesses. And we will have no tax on tips, no tax on overtime, and no tax on Social Security benefits. To rapidly reduce inflation, I will end Kamala's war on American energy, and we will drill, baby, drill. We're going to drill. Right? And I will cut your energy prices. You have very high energy prices, I have to say. You have high energy prices, and you don't have FEMA. Those people, they better get that FEMA here fast. But we're going to, on January 20th, you'll see a whole different, just tell everybody to sit back, relax. January 20th, you'll see people come in and help you out like we did in the past. We had great FEMA. We had so many, a lot of hurricanes. We helped Puerto Rico more than anybody. I mean, Puerto Rico was, we helped them so much. They love me and I love them. Puerto Rico, see, she loves me. She loves me and I love her too, actually. No, we had great FEMA. We helped Puerto Rico and other places, but at levels nobody ever saw before. We got in there, we sent hospital ships, we sent everything. They got hit hard. Puerto Rico got really hit hard, a lot. They still do. And I'll cut your energy prices in one half. We have more liquid gold than any country. Russia, Saudi Arabia, right there. It's under your feet. We're going to cut your energy prices by 50%. And when that happens, everything else is going to come down. That's what brought it up. Now, before leaving, I just want to introduce some people that have just been great. Senator Ted Budd, you know, he's great. Congressman Dan Bishop, who's running for Attorney General. And he was a great congressman, and he'll be a great Attorney General. Candidates for Congress, Brad Nod and Alan Swain, they're terrific, please. Good luck. I heard you're doing great. Our great RNC chairman. Now, if we don't win, I'm not going to be saying that. I'm going to take it back, okay? But I think we've got it under control, wouldn't you say? The great Michael Whatley of North Carolina. Now we're going to win. And Michael had one message for you. We don't need your money. We don't need anything. Got plenty of money. We got plenty of everything. All we need is a very simple vote. Just go out and vote. And get your friends to vote, too. Bring them along, you know? And a man who I'm so proud of because he stepped into very big shoes, Michael's shoes, GOP Chair Jason Simmons. We're looking good? Thank you. These guys don't let us down. I mean, I took the man from North Carolina, I moved him to the top. That's a nice statement. When all those other things were falling off a cliff, right? Ballots have been found, but this guy had 603 lawyers, and we had him stymied. You don't think they would have done that here, too? But we have a good legal team now. We're watching them, and they're watching. They don't know what I think they're very upset at what we've done. But Michael has really established some power to all we want. And we don't want any. We just want a fair election. That's all we want, you know. A friend of mine and former acting Attorney General Matt Whitaker. Thank you very much. Alice Johnson's here. Where's Alice Johnson? Oh, look at my beautiful. Somebody came in to see me. They said, there's a woman that's been in jail for 22 years, this is approximately, but like around that number. A beautiful woman, a great woman. Everyone in prison loves her. She's like the person that everybody, she's a high quality. And how much longer does she have to stay? another 28 years. She's been there for 22 years. The model prisoner, and people called me about her. I've been hearing about her. And what happened was amazing. I checked it out. I said, wow, that's a hell of a big sentence for doing what people do now and they don't even get fined, right? So she's in there for 22 years. So I got her out of prison. I said, I'm doing it. You look beautiful. Wow. Can you imagine? She was actually on a phone call. They had a couple of guys selling drugs and stuff, and she was on the call. They gave her 22 years plus, I guess, 50, 60 years or something. I mean, it's unbelievable. Today, they wouldn't even give you a fine. And it's, and that's no good either, by the way, because what's going on. But it was one of the best feelings. I mean, I've had a lot of good feelings. We had a lot of victories, I'll tell you what. But that was one of the really good feelings getting. And then I said to Alice, she came into the White House, I said, how many people are like you in prison? In your prison, big prison? She said, many, sir. I said, really? Are they all that way? Are they? No, sir. And that was a good answer because I knew they weren't, If she would have said yes, then I would have said, well, you gave me the right answer. You don't know it. But she said, many, many great people. I said, give me a list of your top 25 or 30 or 50 or 10, whatever it is. Give me a list of really good people who shouldn't be there. And she gave me a list, and we got every one of them out immediately, right? Right? Just a great woman. Thank you very much, John. I didn't know you were going to be here. That's very nice. She still likes me. Well, she's got to like me. What the hell? I mean, could you imagine if she were like some of these guys? Sometimes I'll endorse somebody and they won't be that. Can you imagine when, this would be a story. I got her out of 28 years and then she comes out against me. I say, but stuff like that happens in politics, I got to tell you. But not with that one, it doesn't. We love you. Thank you very much. Thank you. So I didn't even put it here, but we have so much stuff, and I don't want to bore you. But I was asked by a group of people, mostly African-American people came to my office. They said, we've been trying for 30 years to get criminal justice reform. Obama couldn't do it. Nobody could do it. Nobody could do it. And they came to my office and they said, we have a problem. We're 5 votes short. And we need 5 conservative senators that are hard line. And actually, we had conservative senators that loved it, Ted, right? We had some conservative senators that were actually supporting it. But I called up some of the senators, and one of them in particular was great. He said, you got it. He was leading it. He said, sir, you got it. I said, I got what? I haven't even asked you a question yet. You're calling about criminal justice reform. And I'm the one that's leading against it, right? But you got it. Because if it wasn't for you, I wouldn't even be a senator. And if you feel that way, I'm giving it to you. That's the way it was. I got 5 guys in 10 minutes. And we got it done, and it was very, because I see this guy, I don't know who he is, but I see him on television. Sort of a lightweight, I think, not a very smart guy. But you know what? He came in, he was one of the people that came into the office. A black gentleman named Van Jones, right? Right? So he came in, and I was impressed with him. Good-looking guy. He was crying uncontrollably that it was going to fail again. And there were like 10 African-American people and a couple of others, but mostly African-American, and he was sitting right in front of me and weeping and saying and I really thought it was great because you know what, that's okay. I mean, he's trying to get people like Alice out, that's good. And there were no provisions for anything. It was really draconian. And what I did is I said, that's really nice. Look, I'm going to see if I can get this for you. I got it done in about 2 hours, and we had criminal justice reform. And they announced a news conference that night. Van Jones, who I don't know. The only time I think I ever met him was in the Oval Office. They came in with a group about criminal justice reform. And remember, Obama couldn't get, nobody could get it, nobody. Bush couldn't get it, they all tried. Why wouldn't they try? So what happens is, he was crying profusely. I told him, congratulations, we're going to get it for you, and I got it. And then they announced a news conference that night in some place in Washington, D.C., and he was heading up the news conference. I said, First Lady, come on over here. I'm going to show you something really nice. This is really a beautiful thing. I'm very happy I was able to do this. I got them the vote that they could have never gotten, 5 conservative senators. You wouldn't have gotten these guys. You got to know what we're dealing with here. They were seriously hard right, and that's good. That's fine. You got hard left, you got hard right. And I said, First Lady, people love, she's got the #1 best-selling book in the country. Can you believe it? Can you believe it? I wouldn't have even said that except I read it, and it's really good. If, you know, can you imagine if I didn't read it and I didn't like it? No, she's great. She loves you. She says hello. But she got the #1, that's a big achievement in life. On the New York Times list, do you know how that book has to sell 20 times more than it should in order for her to be the #1 bestseller? So we're proud of her. She's great. And she was a great First Lady. People love her. People love her. And I said, First Lady, see, this is a little bit of a weave. You see those stories? First Lady, book, boom. But you got to always bring it back. When it comes to a time when it doesn't meet at the bottom, then it's time to say, let's not do this shit anymore. We won't do this anymore. But, so what happened is Van Jones was crying, and now I tell him, it's okay, he was the happiest guy. It was beautiful. Got a nice way about him, nice look, you know, real nice look, smart. And I heard they were going to have a big news conference to announce it later on that evening. And they had it. And I said, First Lady, come on, this is one I want you to watch. Because I wouldn't say she's in love with politics, you know. I wouldn't say it's her first thing on the book. She's not in love with politics. She said, it's a very unfair situation. But I said, welcome to politics, right? But she's been so popular. She's raised so much money for people with BBest. So I said, listen, you got to watch this. So we sat down and we were watching the news conference opened, and Van Jones was introducing everybody that I never heard of any of them. I want to thank this one. I want to thank that one. I want to thank Al Sharpton. The guy had nothing to do with it, nothing. He had nothing. It was just a con job. I've known Al for a long time. It's just a con job. So I want to thank Al Sharpton. He wants to thank all these people. I never met any of them. Some were names. He was thanking Democrat senators that opposed it. He was thanking everybody. And before it started, I said, honey, look, we're human. I said, baby, wait till you hear the nice things he says about me. It's unbelievable. It's going to be unbelievable. So come here, because this is really bringing the country together. So she said, oh, that's nice. So we sat and watched. And after announcing the first 10 or 12 names, she looks at me. Do you think he's going to say anything about you? Yeah, I think so. Maybe he's saving it for the end. You saved the best for last. He went through so many names, and he never mentioned my names. He never mentioned my name, and every time I see that guy, not that I needed it, I get enough publicity, but can you imagine that? And then they wonder about why you don't bring people together. Van Jones went through so many names that night. They were up on the stage with him, and it was only done because of a guy named Donald J. Trump. And I just thought, you know, I haven't related that story, but little things like, now I'm relieved. I don't have to carry around that stuff. But all I know is that our beautiful Alice Johnson is out of prison, and she should have never been there for that kind of a thing, or certainly not for very long. We love you, Alice. It's great that you're there. We'll always be your friend. And just quickly, I want to also thank Steve Witkoff. He's here. He's a friend of mine. He's been traveling with me. He's one of the most successful developers, and he gave a lot of money to Franklin Graham also. I want to tell you that. So Steve Witkoff, wherever Steve is. Thank you, Steve. And Howard Lutnick is, along with an unbelievable woman, Linda McMahon, heading up transition. And they're going to do a great job. He's got a great story. He's been a very successful person, but he had to rebuild his firm because of the attack on the World Trade Center. He lost his entire firm and then rebuilt it bigger, better, stronger. And he gave a big portion of the proceeds to the people that were killed. He lost the top 3 floors of the building. He was on his firm. Cantor Fitzgerald was on the top 3 floors of the World Trade Center. They were all gone, including his brother. And he rebuilt that firm, and it's now bigger, and he gave a big chunk. He didn't have to do that, and he's just a very highly respected man on Wall Street, and he's involved in the transition at a high level. And I also would like to pay homage and Ed, because they're great people. They're great people. It's, we all like to brag about our kids, and sometimes maybe we shouldn't. And some people, but you have your kids, you love your kids, but these are great children, they're not children anymore, but to me, they'll always be children, right? They're your children. If they're 25 or 35 or 40, Don is not a child. Eric is not a child. Tiffany is now going to have a beautiful baby. And I want to, Ivanka called me a little while ago. She sends her love to everybody. She's terrific. And I have a guy who's at home with the First Lady, and he's very smart. He got into a great college, and he's now in college. He's 18 years old, and he's doing great. And he gives me good advice. Dad, just take it easy now. You just take it easy, Dad, all right? You don't have to go too much here. He gives me good advice. He's very wise. And I also, Michael Boulos, who's fantastic. His family is fantastic, and that's it. So in conclusion, with your vote tomorrow, we're going to fire Kamala, we're going to save America, and we're going to cut your taxes, end inflation, slash your prices, raise your wages, and bring thousands of factories back to America and back to North Carolina. We will build American, we will buy American, we will hire American, and I will end the war in Ukraine. Should have never started if I were president, would have never started. And in the Middle East, would have never started. Israel, all those people would be alive. And I will prevent, I promise, World War III. We're very close to World War III, in case you haven't noticed that we have people that don't have. We have people representing us who don't have a clue. We will crush violent crime and give our police the support, protection, resources, and respect that they so dearly deserve. We will strengthen and modernize our military. We will build a missile defense shield over our country made in the USA. We will rebuild our cities, including our capital in Washington, D.C., making them safe, clean, and beautiful again. We will teach our children to love our country, to honor our history, and to always respect our great American flag. We will get critical race theory and transgender insanity the hell out of our schools. And we will keep men out of women's sports. I will defend religious liberty, I will restore free speech, and I will defend the right to keep and bear arms. After years of building up foreign nations, defending foreign borders, and protecting foreign lands, we are finally going to build up our nation, defend our borders, and protect our lands and citizens. And we will stop illegal immigration once and for all. And we want people to come into our country, but they have to come in legally, all right? We do want people. We will not be invaded. We will not be occupied. We will not be overrun. We will not be conquered. They are conquering. They are conquering large sections of our country. We're being conquered. Can you believe that? The only difference is they're not wearing military uniforms. We will be a free and proud nation once again. Everyone will prosper, every family will thrive, and every day will be filled with opportunity and hope and the American dream itself. But for that to happen, we must defeat Kamala and stop her radical left agenda with a landslide that is too big to rig. Kamala destroyed perhaps the greatest city in our nation, San Francisco. It's an embarrassment what's happened to San Francisco. We're not going to let her destroy our country. So all I need is for you to get out and vote. For the past 9 years, we have been fighting against the most sinister and corrupt forces on earth. We have together, all of us together. With your vote in this election, you can show them once and for all that this nation does not belong to them. This nation belongs to you. Belongs to you. Because it was the hardworking patriots like you who built this country, and tomorrow it is the hardworking patriots like you who are going to save our country. Think of this, I won't be doing this anymore with North Carolina, and I won't be doing this anymore with, after today, I'm just thinking as I'm going through this, that this will be our final moment, but the more exciting moment is going to begin. See, these moments of hundreds and hundreds of the most incredible rallies that any country, no country's ever seen anything like it. But these moments that we've had together, these really were just to create what we hopefully will create.
It's coming to an end, guys.
We're going to make America great again. We had to get there together. So we'll have many meetings, but we won't have rally meetings. We're going to have, maybe we'll rally in our success. Because we're going to make our country so successful. And we did it. We had the greatest economy, best. You see the numbers, you see the charts. We did such a good job, but we'll do a much better job now because I know the people. Now I know the good ones, the bad ones. I know the weak ones, the strong ones. I know the stupid ones. I know the smart ones. I know them all.
There should be success rallies, but I think there should be success rallies.
Together,
Okay.
we stand on the verge of the 4 greatest years in American history.
In Washington.
With your help, we will restore America's
sure.
promise, and we will take back the nation that we all love so much. We are one people, one family, and one glorious nation under God. We will never give in, we will never give up, we will never back down, and we will never, ever surrender. Together, we will fight, 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 and win, win, win. November 5th will be the most important day in the history of our country. We're going to save our country. We're going to turn our country around, and we're going to do it quickly. And together we will make America powerful again. We will make America wealthy again. We will make America healthy again. We will make America strong again. We will make America proud again. We will make America safe again. And we will make America great again. Thank you, North Carolina. Go out and vote.
Can you believe this is the last day for both candidates to rally, campaign, and do all of those stuff? Trump has 4 events today. He just did one in Raleigh, North Carolina, which we just saw. He has 2 in Pennsylvania. and he has one in Michigan. This is absolutely wild. I voted last Monday. You better go out and vote. Don't complain after the election because you didn't vote, because you didn't believe in voting, because you believe, oh, they're all the same. They're all the same. And then you get higher gas prices, higher grocery prices. Oh, they're all the same. No, they're not all the same. Okay. 2017 to 2021, you saw the gas prices, you saw the mortgage prices, you saw the border, you saw foreign policy. You didn't have Ukraine, Russia, you didn't have the Palestinian people and Israel. They had tension, but it wasn't like this. You didn't have Iran doing all of this stuff. So you better relax and go out there and do your duties and vote. Okay. All right. Let's see what the polls are talking about but the early voting polls. Let's see what they're talking about on Fox.
What's their biggest concern right now if you're the Harris team?
Republicans do have an advantage in early vote numbers. When the early vote come in, it's going to look a little bit different than 2020, and that's scary.
So that is very interesting. Jim Messina with his take on the early vote so far. A couple things here we want to look back, all right? You've got a candidate on the ballot for the third time at the national level. So what does the end vote look like? Does it look like 2016 where Trump squeaked out a win here over Hillary Clinton? He swept the blue wall, made it red, Southeast red as well. Or does this election look more like 4 years ago, okay? Here's Biden squeaking out a win over Donald Trump, okay? What did he do? He flipped that red wall, made it blue yet again, then a little bit of blue down here as well in the Southeast. Let's go to this right now because Madison was just talking about the early vote. This is what happened in 2020. You had just shy of 159 Americans voting, okay? So far, right now, okay, no pandemic, no COVID, no nothing. You're at 77 million, so you're just about half of the total that we expect in the end. And among those, now there's a category of others, you know, sometimes they register as independents, et cetera. But based on party, based on the states and early voting that report by party registration, Democrats make up 41% and Republicans make up 39%. This is one of these things that Messina was talking about in the soundbite. And this is one of the things that I'll cruise on back over here and we'll bring in our guests here today. This is one of the things that Republicans like to see right now in the early voting. And we'll see how that shakes out once we add them all up there, Dana.
All right. Well, Harold Ford Jr. and Trey Gowdy are here with us, so no one better
Morning,
than
gents.
to shake that out for us. So your thoughts about that and maybe the concerns that Messina has.
So good morning. Glad to be with you. Election Eve. Trey and I haven't been on the ballot. We understand how election eves feel for candidates across the country. I think you said it well over there at the board. I think it's important for people to realize early voting, what it means for a lot of places around the country, and it really battleground states are where we're most focused. As I think about the closing and the closing arguments, I think both have probably, Trey was saying in the green room, would have probably liked to do it a little differently. However, I think she has been a little more disciplined. I think in the last 3 or 4 days, she's been a little tighter in her message, more concise in her message. But as you look at the map here and where she's going to spend the night, where she's going to spend the day and perhaps the evening, it's Pennsylvania. Without Pennsylvania, Democrats can't win. And frankly, I don't think Republicans can win either without it. So this will be the focus today over the next 24 hours. And I got to tell you, this is like Christmas Eve for me. I'm excited as I can possibly
I was saying. Washington Post headline, Harris's team claims she's no longer the underdog, but Trump team scoffs. Don't know if that's true in the end, but what about Harold's thoughts there, Trey?
Yeah, I mean, I think if you're Donald Trump, your closing argument should be twofold. Number one, you had 3 years to do whatever the next thing that comes out of your mouth is, and you didn't do it. And most Americans think our country's headed in the wrong direction. Instead, he spent the week explaining what someone else said at one of his rallies at Madison Square Garden. She, on the other hand, wants to be talking about turn the page. Joe Biden is not turning the page. He's the table of contents. He's the foreword to the book. And yet he uses the word garbage and she has to explain it. What I find fascinating about Pennsylvania is it's really a microcosm for the country. It's 2 urban centers with Texas in the middle. So who's going to win? It's no longer, I don't think, whatever the old political dynamic, it's now urban versus rural, and Pennsylvania, I think, proves that. Who can win, the cities or the rural area in between?
Here's something that is, I I think that the Trump campaign would like to try to close on this one as well. They've been trying to define Harris for the last 100 days since she became the candidate. If you pull up call for number 3 here, these are the issues that Harris's team has declined to say whether she still supports. And it has everything from immigration and the Senate filibuster, the closing private for-profit prisons. She's called that morally wrong. She wants to install a climate envoy in every embassy around the world, et cetera. There's all of these things, Harold. And, is that a reflection of the campaign being so truncated, so short, so she didn't have time to do that? Or does she not want people to know where she stands?
I don't know the answer to that, but I know this. If I were running against her, if I were Donald Trump, this is what I would have been talking about the entire time. I'm slightly surprised that President Trump is not closing at the border. I mean, I would have had the cameras there saying to the country, here's why I have to be president again to ensure that we get some reasonableness and sanity here. I think for President Trump, some of the undisciplined way he is closed has invited people or given people permission to think back about the things they didn't like about him 8 years ago. And the question is, do you want that in your living room? Do you want that in your dining room? Do you want that in your kitchen or your bedroom, wherever you consume television or media for that matter? And for her, I'm surprised that she didn't have to give a long-form interview. I'm surprised she didn't have to do more. I thought what she did with Brett, she did a good job. I would have done more if I were her. But we'll have an opportunity to say this Wednesday or Thursday. I think as we sit here today, she's in a good position. He's in a good position. It's interesting that he's going to spend as much time in Georgia that the Republicans are.
Okay.
I thought you would think that Georgia and North Carolina might be locked up, but in fact,
it seems like the play he's been running for the last 4 days is Georgia, North Carolina, Pennsylvania. Now, if you go to the board over there and add up electoral votes, that would be enough to get him back in the Oval Office. Just a couple things on that. If she wins, Trey, she would be the first candidate, certainly in the modern era, perhaps ever, who's never held a formal press conference. I don't know how you feel about that, but Nikki Haley went public. Here's her op-ed today. Trump isn't perfect, but he's the better choice. If you like his policies but are put off by his tone or excesses, consider the cost of the past 4 years. I don't know how you evaluate that, but Nikki Haley's weighed in twice now in the final 7 days.
Well, my first analysis is I never got in trouble for something I didn't say. So if you don't talk, it's hard to get in trouble. The problem with Kamala Harris is she has a voting record, and it was to the left of Bernie Sanders. I mean, very few Americans think death row inmates ought to be able to vote. Like maybe none. When I say very few, I mean none. But she did. So she either has to explain her change in position, which is always tough, or she has to just not talk. Donald Trump didn't participate in the primary debates. Katie Hobbs won in Arizona. I mean, I think it's on us as voters if we give people a free pass for not having to explain their positions. But both sides have done it in the past.
I hope it's a tradition that ends. I hope this is the last time that we allow the candidates to dictate to us, presidential candidates, when and how many debates they'll have. They should have 3 always, and they should split it up about the issues. But we'll have an opportunity to talk about this.
And Bill and Dana should moderate one of those.
Trey, with a Trump victory, however, have you given thought much to how it might be different from his first term?
Yeah, I mean, he doesn't like it when I say this. I think 2016 caught them all by surprise. I'm not sure they were planning on winning. So vetting good cabinet. I mean, look at the number of original cabinet members that actually survived. So I know the folks running transition for him, they have been hard at work. I think you will see more closely vetted candidates. I think where he will get frustrated is the House is a slow-moving body. It starts all over again. So he may have an agenda, but the House takes a while to get cranked up. He's going to have to do it with executive action, which conservatives used to not like, but now they're okay with it.
It depends on the timing, right? Harold, any final last word?
I don't disagree with what Trey said about President Trump. I think Vice President Harris will have similar challenges. She has a little bit of an incumbency advantage. She'll be able to pick her team, but we got a long way before that.
And she'll likely have a Republican Senate to deal with.
Right, and hopefully a Democratic House. If not, if it's Republican House, Republican Senate, the country may like it because it'll slow things down, but it may frustrate her if she's president.
Get your sleep.
All right, guys.
And you
Thank
too.
you. Thanks,
All right.
so
Thank
good to
you,
have
Trey.
you
Thank
here.
you.
Counting the votes in Arizona tomorrow night could turn into a marathon, all thanks to a ballot in Maricopa County that is unusually long. Tell us more. Alicia Acuna, she's there in Phoenix with the story. Hi, Alicia.
Hi, Dana. I spoke with a Maricopa County elections official who told me that the county is already, quote, backed up as it processes the early mail-in ballot here, and in large part that's because of the county's long ballot. It is 2 pages double-sided with an average of 79 different contests. It's twice as long as most years, so taking the pages out of the envelopes is double the time. This could impact voters in 2 ways. First, it's likely going to delay fuller results we historically see here in the hour after the polls close. We will still be able to report early results, but only a percentage as they catch up. Maricopa County says they are working 24/7 and have added shifts. And second, a long ballot can equal long lines on Election Day. We talked to a couple of people who said it took them about an hour.
It definitely took more time, and I felt like I did have to spend more time going into depth on everything on the ballot.
Are you concerned about the lines on Tuesday, people waiting while other people are filling out that long ballot?
I am concerned. Ease of voting has always been a concern for me, so I think the whole system needs to be reframed and really thought about to make voting easier for everybody, because it is a struggle here.
Maricopa County is a must-win in this state, and elections officials here say it could take between 10 and 13 days for the final tally. Dana, some people will remember we were standing here in 2020 and 2022. It felt like for days on end. It has to do with the election laws here and the order in which the ballots are allowed to be counted. So we're trying to establish kind of a level set for expectations because, again, Arizona is going to Arizona. So we're all just going to have to settle in. Dana.
Come on, Arizona.
Let's go.
Figure it out. Thanks, Alicia.
Hey, Dana, we showed you this a moment ago. Among the battleground states now, Democrats lead Republicans in turning out the vote. But it's only by 2 points. That gives Republicans a lot of hope that they can overcome this tomorrow with their in-person vote. Here's another thing we're looking at right now. Gender gap is huge right now. Men favor Trump by 18 points. Women favor Kamala Harris by 16, according to the poll that NBC put out. And here we go on the issues, all right? Immigration Trump, inflation Trump, economy Trump, unite the country, Harris, and abortion, Harris by 20 points, 53-33. So we'll gauge that gender gap come Tuesday night into Wednesday morning as well. One last thing here on women. They've turned out by 53% to men 44%. This is not battlegrounds. This is all the votes that have been cast thus far at this point. Typically, in a national election, women make up 52% of the vote nationwide. So that's just a tick higher, and we'll see how it goes tomorrow. I'm Steve Ducey.
Ladies and gentlemen, thank you for tuning into the live show. You know what time it is. Double tap your screen if you're wondering how can I like this show, because I love it. All you have to do is double tap your screen twice, 1, 2, and you've liked the stream. And consider subscribing to the channel if you've gotten any entertainment or value or whatever information. Okay, so listen up. Go out and vote. Okay? Don't be out there sitting around, laying around, watching TV and saying you don't want to vote. You better go out there and vote, okay? Go out and vote. It counts. It matters, okay? Go out and vote. I love you guys. Never give up on yourself. Never give up on your dreams. Never give up on God. Believe in yourself, believe in your dreams, believe in God, okay? Dedication and hard work will win this election for sure. Whoever is most dedicated and whoever works harder the most, and obviously by the grace of God, I believe the 45th will be the 47th. Thank you for tuning into the live stream. Instead of looking for perfection, seek for consistency. I will be back today for sure. The legendary 45th has 3 more events today, and we're going to stream that. But for right now, I got to go handle some business. You guys go handle some business too, and we're going to be back here. Genesis is signing out. Thank you to all the moderators, Andrea, Nikki, C. Shelley, Average Joe, Zane, everybody. Okay, God bless you.